Chapter 1336. Although Qin Wentian's laughter was very soft, the senses of these people were extremely sharp. They could easily hear it. Wan Qingshan and Wan Miaoyan frowned, as though they were extremely unhappy. However, in front of Duanmu, they didn't want to be rude and didn't want to act out. However, Wan Yao didn't care about that. She only coldly spoke, "What are you laughing at?" "Nothing." Qin Wentian shook his head. Scram to the side. Wan Qingshan didn't act out on the spot. He transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian instead. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with coldness. He glanced at Wan Qingshan and remained motionless. The gazes of everyone landed on Qin Wentian. Clearly, even if Wan Qingshan and the others didn't want to be calculative, they wouldn't be able to hide it from the eyes of these people. "Earlier, what were you laughing at?" Wan Qingshan coldly spoke. "Can't I laugh?" Qin Wentian counter-asked. "No." Wan Miaoyan also spoke, her eyes cold. Qin Wentian's laughter seemed to be mocking her. "Fine, since you guys want to know so much, I will tell you then. I'm laughing at a casual joke of others and you actually expressed your stance so clearly. Regardless of whether you are looking for a son-in-law or as a woman, can you be more reserved?" Qin Wentian's tone was no longer as polite as before. Although he didn't want to be calculative with people from the Wan clan, he couldn't do anything about them finding fault with him time and time again. As expected, Qin Wentian's unmasked sarcasm seemed to have uncovered something. A moment later, the gazes of Wan Qingshan and Wan Miaoyan turned exceptionally cold. The young man named Mu Qiu and Duanmu both stared at Qin Wentian with ridicule in their eyes. This person was truly interesting. "This is..." Mu Qiu's smile was gentle and scholarly, exuding the aura of a noble. "A scoundrel, hiding in my Wan clan and sneaking his way here. How shameless." Wan Qingshan coldly spoke. "Oh." Mu Qiu smiled and nodded. He then stared at Qin Wentian. "You are quite interesting." "Thank you." Qin Wentian smiled at Mu Qiu. "It's just that speaking indiscriminately, even if it's interesting, can easily lead to an early death." Mu Qiu was still smiling, but his voice caused everyone to feel a chill in their hearts. Even those from the Wan clan could feel the pressure radiating from him. For a character like this, squashing Qin Wentian to death would be as simple as squashing an ant. "You're so weird." Qin Wentian stared at Mu Qiu as he spat out these 4 words. Instantly, Mu Qiu's eyes narrowed as a cold intent radiated from his body. "Impudent." At this moment, killing intent gushed forth from Wan Qingshan, gushing towards Qin Wentian. It wasn't easy for him to have a chance to climb up to the peak, but Qin Wentian was actually destroying everything here. If Qin Wentian wants to court death, he can go ahead and die. However, this would affect Mu Qiu and Duanmu's view of the Wan clan. He didn't want to miss such an opportunity. "Before this, I've already given you face several times, but you don't even know the word gratitude. Could it be that you think that just by saying a few words, you would be able to make others look at you in a higher light?" Wan Miaoyan stepped out, radiating a similarly unmasked coldness. Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian as she spoke, "Just an ant. In front of a character standing at the peak of the immortal realms, just a single step is enough to crush you into dust." You compared Qin Wentian to an ant and Duanmu and the others to characters at the peak of the clouds. In that case, what can you, Wan Miaoyan, be considered? Jin walked up as she calmly spoke. Wan Miaoyan turned her gaze to Jin. This was already the second time Jin stood in front of her and talked back to her. "Who am I? It's not your turn to criticize me. Jin, you have never liked to fight, and when the clan needed you, you ignored us. However, you chose to stand against the clan time and time again for the sake of an outsider. Could it be that there's something going on between the two of you?" Wan Miaoyan's expression was as cold as frost, her words were extremely unpleasant to the ears. At this instant, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with coldness. He was truly angered. Before this, he only hated the people of the Wan clan. But right now, Wan Qingshan's killing intent and Wan Miaoyan's insulting words caused a wave of anger to well up in his heart. What kind of person is the type of person they would use to judge others? This should be the darkness of human nature. Jean lightly spoke. And just as she was speaking, Mu Qiu, who was at the side, suddenly waved his hand, catching everyone off guard. There were no signs at all and a tearing sound rang out. The veil covering Jean's face was instantly torn apart. She closed her eyes, revealing a beautiful face that was as beautiful as a painting. The gazes of everyone instantly landed on her face. Upon staring at her, the expressions of Mu Qiu, Duanmu, and the others all turned extremely interesting. Wan Miaoyan also started when she saw Jean's face. She had always been known as the #1 beauty of the Wan clan. Her talent and beauty were both #1. As for Jean, not many people cared about her existence. But right now, that beautiful face of hers was as beautiful as a painting. How could it be any different when compared to her coldness? Is this beauty also someone from your clan? Mu Qiu's expression instantly turned much gentler as he asked Wan Qingshan. Wan Qingshan's heart trembled when he saw Mu Qiu's expression. He nodded, she is my good-for-nothing niece. Right now, she is actually helping an outsider to deal with her own clan. I've incurred young Master Mu's ridicule. Beautiful women would always be more willful. It's just that it's not good for her to be used by some minor characters. Miss Jean, if you are interested, why don't we get to know each other? Mu Qiu smiled. Right now, Jean's expression was extremely unsightly. Rudely tearing apart her veil and even inviting her to get to know each other with a smile on his face. How shameless was this? Not interested. Jean coldly replied. Jean, it's your fortune that young Master Mu appreciates you. Go over. Wan Qingshan berated. You. Jean stared at Wan Qingshan. The matters today have completely toppled my understanding of the word shameless. Qin Wendian coldly spoke. Scram. Mu Qiu smiled as he spat out a single word. Qin Wendian inclined his head and stared at Mu Qiu. You can forget about the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Scram. Mu Qiu stared into Qin Wendian's eyes as he spoke again. His expression was calm, and his tone was filled with unquestionable authority. Scram. Duanmu also spoke. The tone of the two of them was as calm as ever. It was like Qin Wendian was already destined to never be able to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Qin Wendian stood there, staring at the two figures before him. They were lofty, like they could decide his fate with a single sentence. The two young masters spared your dog life. Why are you still not thanking them before scramming? Wan Qingshan mocked. This person truly didn't know his own limits. What if I don't? Qin Wendian calmly spoke. Behind him, Wan Zhuqing and Jean both had unsightly expressions on their faces. I've never seen someone as lowly as you. You actually have no self-awareness at all. Wan Miaoyan coldly spoke. Could it be that you don't understand that any one of the people in front of you can easily take your lowly life? However, they only told you to scram. Do you really think that just because you are so hypocritical, others would look up to you and spare you? It's enough for you to lie to Jean. Just as the conflict erupted, the entire region was still bustling with noise and excitement. Very few people noticed that in the air, there were still many people arriving. Among them, there was a group of valiant-looking figures. The person in the lead was none other than Li Yufeng. Princess Nongyue hasn't arrived yet. Why are you in such a hurry to come here? Someone beside him laughed. Joining in the fun, isn't it very interesting? Li Yufeng laughed. He turned his gaze downwards. There were truly many people here today. That last Nongyue would soon receive the worship of these people. At this moment, Li Yufeng's gaze suddenly froze as he stared at a certain direction. He almost thought that he had seen wrongly. His bright eyes flickered, he was certain that he didn't see wrongly. After that, he smiled, you guys go and find a place first. I saw a friend here. I will go and greet him, I will be right back. As the sound of his voice faded, Li Yufeng directly sped away. The people around him started, this fellow was truly swift and decisive. However, there was actually a friend of his in the crowd. Someone who could be called a friend by Li Yufeng. What sort of character would he be? He actually came to the Dark North Immortal Mountain as well. This was truly interesting. Brother Qin, it has been a long time. Just when Qin Wentian was told to scram, a voice drifted over from the air. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over only to see Li Yufeng descending from the sky, landing beside him. Li Yufeng smiled, it has been so many years since we last met. To think that we would meet again here. Li Yufeng. Qin Wentian smiled. What a coincidence. When he heard that Bai Ming Nong Yue would be the host of this banquet, he had already wondered if Li Yufeng would come. Who would have thought that they would really meet here? At this moment, Li Yufeng sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. He glanced at the surroundings and saw Mu Qiu and Duanmu laughing coldly, as well as the coldness radiating from the Wan clan. Only Qin Wentian stood there alone with a beauty behind him. This fellow was truly fated with women. Back then when he was in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, there were already several beauties accompanying him. Brother Qin, what's going on? Li Yufeng smiled when he saw this scene. Someone wants me to scram, saying that I'm destined to never be able to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Qin Wentian shook his head and smiled bitterly. Li Yufeng's eyes flashed. He stared at Duanmu and Mu Qiu as an expression of interest flashed in his eyes. Thinking back to those years ago, Qin Wentian who roasted the meat of white tigers from peak powers in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, was he being bullied here? This is truly an interesting matter. Li Yufeng sighed with emotion. Who are you? Wan Qingshan coldly asked. The person before him seemed to feel a sense of familiarity. Since I'm here, I'm naturally prepared to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Li Yufeng laughed. No matter who you are, since you are standing beside him, you have no fate with the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Just scram. Mu Qiu smiled at Li Yufeng. The smile on his face was as confident as ever. Chapter 1337. As the sound of his voice faded, Li Yufeng's face was filled with black lines. No matter who he was, he had no fate with the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Telling him to scram. He came from far away just to see Bai Ming Nong Yue. But now, at the banquet hosted by Bai Ming Nong Yue, there was actually someone pointing at him and telling him to scram. Li Yufeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He stared at Mu Qiu. Are you sure you are talking to me? As he spoke, Li Yufeng glanced to the side. There seemed to be no one beside him. Another idiot. Mu Qiu cast a pitiful glance at Li Yufeng. After that, his gaze turned to Qin Wentian. Do you want me to tell you to scram for the third time? I'm also someone from the Wan clan. Wan Qingshan, do you really have to be so ruthless in this matter? Wan Zhuqing's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. It was fine if the Wan clan wanted to climb up a higher branch. But now, they wanted Qin Wentian and Jin to lose their chance to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain. You guys are the ones who don't know what's good for you. After you return, discipline your daughter well. As for this brat, telling him to scram is already considered being polite. Wan Qingshan coldly spoke. Li Yufeng glanced at Qin Wentian with some sympathy. He didn't expect that this fellow would actually be told to scram when he came to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Most probably, Qin Wentian was feeling the same as him right now, on the verge of collapse. Princess Nongyue hasn't arrived yet. She didn't say anything. Who are you guys? Why are you helping her to decide if we have the qualifications to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain? Li Yufeng's temper seemed to be quite good. His voice was as calm as ever as he asked Mu Qiu. Yes, so what of it? Mu Qiu saw that Li Yufeng didn't seem to care at all. Coldness radiated from him. If that's the case, I really want to see how you are going to tell me to scram. Li Yufeng also seemed to be in high spirits. He stared at Mu Qiu and spoke, "The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom has summoned experts from all 8 regions. Bai Ming Nong Yue hasn't arrived yet and you want to tell us to scram on her behalf? I really want to see what the experts of the Immortal Dynasty would do when they notice the commotion here when you guys are suppressing me." Mu Qiu's countenance changed. If it was outside, killing 2 Immortal Foundation experts would naturally be an extremely minor matter. This was especially so to someone of his status. However, this place was the entrance to the Immortal Mountain, the place where Princess Nongyue was about to hold the grand banquet. If he forcefully ordered his subordinates to kill these 2, it was impossible for him not to be discovered. If that was the case, he truly had no way to predict the attitude of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Although his birth was extraordinary, in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, no one dared to go against the Celestial Dynasty. Very smart, borrowing the power of the dynasty to suppress me. From now on, my men will keep their eyes on you. If you don't scram, there won't be any problems. Then, Mu Qiu's eyes flashed with a cold light as he said, "Die." As the sound of the word "die" faded, a cold killing intent gushed forth, enveloping Li Yufeng and Qin Wentian. He stared at Qin Wentian and Li Yufeng like he was looking at a dead man. Wan Zhuqing paled, "Young Master Mu, please forgive us." It was him who asked Qin Wentian to accompany them. But now, Qin Wentian actually met with a life-threatening crisis. A sin caused by the heavens can be forgiven, but a sin caused by oneself cannot be forgiven. Wan Qingshan coldly spoke. "Courting death." Wan Miaoyan's expression was as cold as ever. She stared at Qin Wentian as she spoke, pretending to have guts, yet you are paying for it with your life. Lowly and foolish, overestimating your own capabilities. From the crowd of the Wan clan, mocking voices rang out, sounding exceptionally ear-piercing. Qin Wentian and Li Yufeng stood within the crowd, completely isolated. Naturally, if this beauty is willing to plead on your behalf, I might consider it. Mu Qiu stared at Jin beside Qin Wentian as he spoke. Jin furrowed her brows, her expression was cold. "You truly think highly of yourself." Qin Wentian stared at Mu Qiu. His cold eyes had no fluctuations of emotions at all. "Princess Nongyue is here. Princess Nongyue has arrived." At this moment, numerous exclamations rang out. The people in this vast region started to be in an uproar as countless gazes turned to the air. In a certain direction, a group of experts soared through the air. Princess Nongyue was riding on a black-colored demonic beast, surrounded by countless experts as her guards. Princess Nongyue is truly a phoenix in the mortal world. A heaven chosen. Not only is her status extraordinary, she even has such beauty. I wonder who would be so lucky as to have a chance to marry the princess. Most probably, that person would be able to die with no regrets. Countless sighs of admiration rang out from the crowd. At this moment, even in the direction of Qin Wentian, the people of the Wan clan all inclined their heads and stared at the beautiful maiden in the air. Bai Ming Nongyue, the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. She was lofty and lofty, unexcelled in the world. Wan Miaoyan had a look of yearning on her face, only envy could be seen in her heart. This was a true heaven chosen. Although she was respected by many in Skyflame City, in the royal capital, anyone could look at her with a disdainful gaze. Young Master Duanmu and Mu Qiu were characters that they could only look up to. As for Princess Nongyue, only others had the qualifications to look up to her. This was the absolute disparity between them. Staring at Princess Nongyue ascending the throne step by step, Wan Miaoyan clenched her fists. One day, she also wanted to become such a magnificent character. In that case, everything would start from the moment she entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Princess Nongyue is getting more and more beautiful. Mu Qiu stared at Bai Ming Nongyue as he sighed. This was the woman he truly loved. If he married her, his radiance would illuminate the heavens and earth. In his clan, he would also be able to enjoy supreme glory. As for Wan Miaoyan and Jin, although they were beautiful, their statuses were low. At most, he would only want to toy with them. We pay our respects to Princess. The sounds of clattering rang out as the vast crowd bowed. These voices gradually gathered into a terrifying torrent, shaking the entire area. For a period of time, the figure seated on the throne seemed incomparably majestic. She was clad in a luxurious cloak and had a crown on her head, exuding a solemn and dignified aura. This solemn intent caused the hearts of Wan Miaoyan and the others to tremble. Countless voices gathered, and when the collective worship of hundreds of thousands of people occurred before their eyes, it was far more impactful than they had imagined. This time, the opening of the Dark North Immortal Mountain will be hosted by me. I represent the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom to welcome the geniuses from the 8 regions. Right now, the banquet has already been prepared. Everyone can enjoy yourselves, and after the banquet, I will officially select the geniuses from the 8 regions to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain for cultivation. Bai Ming Nongyue stood up and stretched out her hands, gesturing to the crowd. Although she was facing countless people and was being worshipped, as a princess, how could she feel any stage fright? She was born noble and extraordinary in this life. Many thanks, Princess. Everyone spoke in unison. After that, many people sat down and enjoyed the banquet. There were also countless people who stood there, exuding a majestic aura. Bai Ming Nongyue is even more heroic now. Qin Wendian glanced over as he smiled to Li Yufeng, who was beside him. That's only natural. Li Yufeng also stared at that figure. At this moment, his mood was much better. This last Nongyue actually had such a majestic side to her. This caused him to feel a little complacent. Yet another disgusting person. A look of disgust appeared on Wan Miaoyan's face. Directly calling Princess Nongyue by her name, as though you are trying to show how extraordinary you are. You are clearly the lowest and most lowly existence, yet you are pretending to be indifferent to everything. This is the first time I've seen someone as shameless as you. Qin Wendian stared at Wan Miaoyan. The eyes of Wan Miaoyan were filled with true disgust that came from the bottom of her heart. Indeed, no matter who he was facing, he would always be so calm. Duanmu, Mu Qiu, and even Bai Ming Nongyue. When Wan Miaoyan saw this, she felt a sense of disgust. Bastard! Wan Qingshan coldly spoke. Also, Jin, from now on, you will stay in the royal capital and accompany young Master Mu. This is an order for you. The appearance of Jin caused Wan Qingshan to feel even more uncomfortable. She would block Wan Miaoyan's path. Now that Miaoyan had a chance to be together with young Master Duanmu, he naturally had to deal with Jin first. No matter how good Qin Wendian's temper was, no matter how much he disdained to bother with them, he couldn't endure being humiliated like this. A cold intent gushed forth from him. You actually have a temper. An expression of interest appeared on Mu Qiu's face. Do you believe that I won't let you guys walk out of here alive? Li Yufeng laughed as he stared at Mu Qiu and Duanmu. The expressions of Mu Qiu and Duanmu froze. After that, Mu Qiu laughed. Many people in the surroundings laughed as well. As for Duanmu, he coldly spoke, even if Princess Nongyue might blame us, it seems like there are some things that we have to do. Lowly people should have their own attitude. Ants trying to shake a tree is simply overestimating their own capabilities. Can you endure this? Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. I can't. Li Yufeng shook his head. Wouldn't it look bad on Bai Ming Nongyue's face? Qin Wendian spoke again. Nongyue wouldn't care about such a small matter. Li Yufeng spoke again. They seem to have many immortal king guards. Qin Wendian continued. Don't worry, they wouldn't dare to move. Li Yufeng replied. Okay then. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. The conversation between the two of them was as calm as ever, using a tone that Wan Miaoyan felt was disgusting. In fact, it sounded a little strange. After that, the spectators only saw Qin Wendian moving towards Wan Qingshan, arriving before him. Wan Qingshan also stared at Qin Wendian as he coldly snorted. Before this, there were already many mocking words. Although I do mind it, but when I thought of how pitiful you are, I didn't bother about it. However, even if I don't bother about it, the faces of the two of you only grew uglier and uglier. If it was before this, I can forget about it. But earlier, you insulted me and Jean, as well as your killing intent. You will have to pay a price for that. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. Price? Wan Qingshan's might gushed forth, exuding the might of a peak-level Immortal Foundation expert. Boom! At the instant his aura erupted forth, Qin Wendian's palm blasted out with the speed of lightning. How dare you! Wan Miaoyan coldly snorted. Wan Qingshan's aura gushed forth as Qin Wendian's palm transformed into a terrifying palm imprint, directly shattering all defenses. Pa! A crisp and violent sound rang out, followed by a muffled rumble. Wan Qingshan was slapped to the ground. One side of his face was swollen, and there was a clear handprint on it. His mind was in a daze. Chapter 1338. Wan Qingshan was stunned, the people of the Wan clan were stunned as well. They didn't expect that Qin Wendian would suddenly act, directly slapping Wan Qingshan to the ground. Duanmu and Mu Qiu also had strange looks on their faces. Was this fellow crazy? You are courting death. Wan Yiyao berated. However, Qin Wendian lifted his left hand and flung it out. A crisp sound rang out as Wan Yiyao was flung through the air. Die! On the ground, Wan Qingshan's killing intent abruptly exploded forth as his aura surged. However, before he could even get up, Qin Wendian's foot directly stomped down on his chest. Puchi! Wan Qingshan coughed out a mouthful of blood as his body trembled violently from the force of the impact. Wendian! Wan Zhuqing's expression froze. Did things really develop to such a state? Arg. Release. Wan Miaoyan's entire body was surrounded by terrifying flames. She was like a goddess of flames, wanting to incinerate everything into ashes. How impudent! Duanmu murmured. Since you are the one who acted first, you can only blame yourselves for courting death. Mu Qiu laughed. I don't wish to see these two again. As the sound of his voice faded, the experts who escorted them here radiated coldness as a terrifying immortal king might bore down on them. But at this moment, the expressions of those immortal kings changed. They didn't move at all. Michem. Mu Qiu frowned. He stared at the people around him. Didn't you guys hear my words? Young master, the other party has experts protecting them. A person spoke in a low voice, his words causing Mu Qiu's countenance to stiffen. He stared at Li Yufeng only to see Li Yufeng smiling faintly. In the next instant, numerous silhouettes walked over, causing the atmosphere in this space to be filled with an oppressive pressure. This scene caused Duanmu and Mu Qiu's eyes to narrow slightly, and the expressions of the Wan clan's members became exceptionally interesting. Wan Miaoyan stared at these experts who appeared, and then glanced at Li Yufeng and Qin Wendian. Could it be that there was a major power behind this fellow? However, Qin Wendian had clearly been with his family in Heavenly Flame City. There doesn't seem to be someone like you in the royal capital. Who are you? Mu Qiu stared at Li Yufeng. An outsider. Li Yufeng laughed lightly. Since you're an outsider, even if you have some immortal king experts by your side, you still don't have the qualifications to behave atrociously in this royal city. Apologize now and scram. Duanmu coldly spoke. As an emperor-ranked power in the royal capital, their horizons were naturally much higher compared to ordinary people. The experts around Li Yufeng might be able to scare the Wan clan, but to them, it was far from enough. Earlier, I've already said it. There's no need to leave the royal capital. Today, I will make sure that none of you can leave this region. Li Yufeng's expression was as calm as ever. Tell me, do you guys want a one-on-one fight or a group battle? What arrogant words. I truly want to see where your courage comes from, to dare to say such words in front of me, Mu Qiu. Mu Qiu spoke loudly, causing the gazes of more and more people to turn over. Those who knew of the Mu clan and Duanmu clan all had expressions of interest on their faces. Interesting, the Mu clan and Duanmu clan were both extremely terrifying existences in the royal capital. Emperor-ranked powers with deep roots in the royal capital. Right now, it seemed that there was an outsider who wanted to clash with this young master of the Mu clan. Since this outsider had such confidence, it was highly possible that his identity was extraordinary as well. In fact, there was a high possibility that he was from an emperor-ranked power. Immortal Emperor, the pinnacle of the immortal realms. In terms of the countless lives in the immortal realms, the number of immortal emperors was truly pitifully few. Immortal emperor-ranked powers were even rarer, and it wasn't easy to encounter one. For geniuses who grew up in such a power, they would naturally have an innate arrogance, unexcelled in the world. The two of you, come at me together. Mu Qiu took a step forward, speaking to Li Yufeng and Qin Wentian. Li Yufeng's heart was on the verge of collapse. It was very rare for him to be treated with such disdain. A mere disciple from an emperor-ranked power actually dared to ask him and Qin Wentian to fight together? One was a saint child of the 100 Refinements sect, the other was a supreme genius who caused a storm of blood in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. In addition, both of them were once rankers on the Supreme Might rankings. Mu Qiu wanted the two of them to fight together. Do you want to go first or should I? Li Yufeng turned his head and asked Qin Wentian. You go first. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Although Li Yufeng's cultivation base was slightly lower, Qin Wentian didn't doubt his strength. Against a mere Mu Qiu, Li Yufeng wasn't even worthy of a mention. Right. Li Yufeng smiled and nodded. After that, an incomparably tyrannical aura gushed forth from Mu Qiu. In an instant, a golden light flashed, illuminating the entire space. The fearsome killing intent caused even more people to notice this conflict. Li Yufeng circulated his immortal foundation. In an instant, his body shone with a resplendent light as a supreme battle armor appeared around him. A terrifying furnace that could refine everything in the world floated in the air. Within it, golden undercurrents of destruction could be seen, as well as a tempest of flames. The law energy of immortals enveloped this entire space, and in an instant, everyone felt as though they were within the furnace. The countenances of Mu Qiu and Duanmu changed. This aura was too powerful. A peak-level Immortal Foundation expert released his aura, instantly causing countless gazes to turn over. Many people had strange looks in their eyes. At the banquet hosted by the Dark North Princess, there were actually people fighting. Boom! Mu Qiu took a step forward as a golden killing light filled the sky, compressed to a terrifying degree. The battle actually erupted in a narrow space. The terrifying smelting furnace devoured everything. Numerous smelting furnaces appeared, directly devouring all the energy in the surroundings. After that, it spat out destructive currents that swept towards Mu Qiu. Arg! Suddenly, Mu Qiu let out a scream of misery. He felt the temperature of his body rising rapidly. Under the might of the law energy, he felt as though he was about to be refined. The shadow of the furnace appeared above him, enveloping him, wanting to incinerate him. Stay your hand. With an explosive roar, Mu Qiu's protector stepped out. At the same time, the protector behind Li Yufeng also stepped out, directly standing in front of them. Two terrifying auras engulfed the heavens and earth, shaking the entire region. It's them, the people we met earlier. The expressions of the people from the Wan clan grew incredibly unsightly. Li Yufeng and his group were actually the people they saw flying through the air earlier. To their Wan clan, they were characters akin to the clouds in the sky. Also, Li Yufeng referred to Qin Wentian as Brother Qin. In that case, who was Qin Wentian exactly? The countenances of the people from the Wan clan all changed. At this moment, they suddenly understood that they were embroiled in a storm that wasn't on their level. Wan Qingshan was still being trampled by Qin Wentian. Wan Yiyao's lips were still dripping with blood. But at this instant, they all felt fear in their hearts. They could no longer care about their injuries. Even a character like Mu Qiu felt a threat to his life. Do you want to die in this royal capital? Mu Qiu stared at Li Yufeng. Earlier, you wanted the two of us to attack together. Who would have thought that you are so useless? You can't defeat me and now you want to threaten me? Li Yufeng laughed. Princess Nongyue is here, release them. Duanmu also spoke. Everyone inclined their heads only to see Baiming Nongyue leading her experts over. Her magnificence was unmatched through the generations. Everywhere she passed by, people would bow and pay their respects. After she arrived, regardless of the people from the Mu clan or Duanmu clan, all of them bowed and called out, "We pay our respects to Princess. We pay our respects to Princess." The people from the Wan clan also bowed deeply, staring at this character who was at the clouds, the noble princess of the Dark North Immortal Dynasty. "Princess, I'm Duanmu Xiu from the Duanmu clan." This person came from an unknown place. He actually dared to behave atrociously at the banquet hosted by Princess. His crime is punishable by death. Young Lord Duanmu bowed to Baiming Nongyue. Right now, Mu Qiu's life was being threatened. In that case, he could only make use of Princess Nongyue's prestige. Li Yufeng laughed, his laughter was filled with amusement. Qin Wendian shook his head lightly. This Mu Qiu and Duanmu Xiu were truly courting death. Baiming Nongyue turned her gaze to Duanmu Xiu and spoke, "I've already noticed the situation here. The conflict was between the two of you. If I want to punish you, should I kill all of you?" Duanmu Xiu's expression froze, becoming extremely unsightly to behold. "Princess, I'm Mu Qiu from the Mu clan. This man is rude and unreasonable, he even showed disrespect to Princess. Mu Qiu's life was in danger, how could he still care about face?" "Oh." Baiming Nongyue calmly spoke. "In that case, I should be thanking you for standing up for me. Since this is the case, you guys can continue." The hearts of everyone trembled. The princess of an immortal dynasty, so what if she was from an emperor-ranked power? Did she even need to care? There was no need. The people from the Wan clan all turned as pale as paper. "Before this, I've already reminded you twice. Today, you won't be able to leave this place." Li Yufeng stared at Mu Qiu. In an instant, an even more terrifying destructive might gushed forth. "Arg!" Mu Qiu screamed in misery as his body was being destroyed bit by bit. But at this moment, a terrifying beam of light shot forth. In the air, an incomparably imposing expert appeared. This was an immortal emperor, the immortal sense of an immortal emperor. "Impudent!" That immortal emperor roared in rage, coldly staring at Li Yufeng. "How dare you!" Baiming Nongyue coldly snorted. Only now did that immortal emperor notice where he was and also saw Baiming Nongyue. "Princess Nongyue, what's going on? Why does someone want to kill my descendant?" That immortal emperor asked. "Your descendant is too tyrannical and has no one in his eyes. He wanted to expel me on behalf of Princess Nongyue and even wanted to make it so that I won't be able to leave the royal capital alive. Hence, he has to die." Li Yufeng inclined his head as he spoke. Countless people were stunned. An immortal emperor appeared, he actually still dared to be so domineering? "Do you think you can touch him?" That immortal emperor radiated killing intent. Several immortal kings appeared before Li Yufeng, helping him to block the pressure. However, Li Yufeng merely laughed. He was the one who started the battle. Since he couldn't win, you decided to step out? Li Yufeng mockingly laughed. "It's fine if you want to protect him, I won't kill him. But if he doesn't die today, I will annihilate your entire clan. Do you believe me?" Chapter 1339. As the sound of Li Yufeng's voice faded, the surroundings instantly turned silent. At this moment, the immortal sense of an immortal emperor appeared before Li Yufeng. How could Li Yufeng not know about this? However, when facing an immortal emperor, he actually told the immortal emperor that if you stop me today, I won't kill Mu Qiu. In that case, I will annihilate your entire clan in the future. Do you want Mu Qiu to die or your entire clan to be annihilated? Was he arrogant? How arrogant was he? Moreover, he dared to say such words in front of Princess Nongyue. When one was arrogant to the extreme, others would no longer think that it was simply ignorant arrogance. They would feel that it was truly a terrifying confidence. If not, what could he use to threaten an immortal emperor? Immortal emperors wouldn't be frightened so easily. Mu Qiu, who was enveloped by the destructive energy, froze. Duanmu Xiu also froze, as well as the experts around them, as well as those from the Wan clan. Mu Qiu and Duanmu Xiu had always been confident that as long as it wasn't someone from the royal clan of the Dark North Immortal Dynasty, how many people in the royal capital could they not afford to antagonize? This was especially so when Mu Qiu and Duanmu Xiu stood together, their confidence grew even more intense. For those they couldn't afford to antagonize, they naturally knew of them. However, they didn't know of Li Yufeng. The Dark North Dynasty was boundlessly vast. But outside of the royal capital, as long as one was in the territory of the Dark North Dynasty, there were simply too few people whom they couldn't afford to offend. Hence, they naturally had the qualifications to be domineering. But at this moment, Mu Qiu and Duanmu Xiu suddenly sensed an unusual aura. Could it be that the person before them truly came from one of those rare powers which they couldn't afford to offend? If not, how would he dare to say such arrogant words when facing an immortal emperor? The people of the Wan clan were so frightened that they stood there in a daze. Wan Miaoyan's beautiful eyes were as cold as ever, but huge waves rose up in her heart. She discovered that the situation was far more complicated than she had imagined. The person whom she thought to be a lowly person, was actually an existence which her Wan clan couldn't afford to offend. Wan Qingshan was still being trampled under Qin Wentian's feet. He inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian only to discover that Qin Wentian's eyes were as calm as ever, just like before. It was as though Li Yufeng's words were only natural. At this moment, Wan Qingshan suddenly felt his entire body turning cold as an extremely ominous feeling welled up in his heart. That immortal emperor stared at Li Yufeng, wanting to see through him. After that, he glanced at the energy Li Yufeng unleashed as his eyes narrowed. This energy seemed to be from a peak power that didn't belong to the Hokage Sengoku. "Who are you?" that immortal emperor asked. Li Yufeng. Staring at the eyes of the immortal emperor, Li Yufeng calmly smiled. Naturally, he didn't think that just a name would be sufficient to scare an immortal emperor. After all, as peak powers of the northern regions, although the Dark North Empire and the 100 Refinements sect were bordering each other, the distance between them was simply too vast. The people of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom would all be able to recognize the princesses of the Dark North Empire, but there wouldn't be many who would recognize the sage child of the 100 Refinements sect. Only peak-stage immortal kings and famous immortal emperors would be able to spread their fame across the vast territories of the empire. Qin Wentian was only at the Immortal Foundation realm, yet his fame spread across the entire eastern regions. This was a miracle. Li Yufeng had yet to create such a miracle. "I come from the 100 Refinements sect." Li Yufeng's following words were like thunder from a clear sky, ringing out in the ears of that immortal emperor and Mu Qiu. As expected, the eyes of that immortal emperor froze. If there was someone who dared to exterminate his clan, he should have already guessed that this person must be from a peak power. And in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, other than the royal clan, there were no other peak powers. There was only that extremely far-away place, the 100 Refinements sect. Mu Qiu and Duanmu Qiu were disciples of immortal emperors. Although they didn't know who Li Yufeng was, they naturally knew what power the 100 Refinements sect was. It was a peak power of the northern regions, a power on par with the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Their hearts sank unceasingly. "This is the sage child of my sect." An immortal king at the side coldly spoke. In this place, the sage child Li Yufeng was actually threatened by a junior who was also at the Immortal Foundation realm, saying that he would die here in the royal capital. This was simply preposterous. Mu Qiu paled. He finally knew that in this place, he had also encountered a character he couldn't afford to offend. "Mu Qiu, kneel down and apologize." The immortal emperor berated. Mu Qiu's body trembled as his face turned completely pale. In front of so many people, in front of Bai Mingnong Yue, he had to kneel down and apologize. The people of the Wan clan all had extremely marvelous expressions on their faces. Wan Miaoyan, Wan Yao, and the others felt their hearts trembling the most intensely. They thought that Mu Qiu and Wan Mu Xiu were characters that were lofty and lofty. Hence, the Wan clan took the initiative to curry favor with them. However, at this moment, they discovered that the person they looked down on, was actually an existence that Mu Qiu and Wan Mu Xiu couldn't afford to offend. Sage child of the 100 Refinements sect, Li Yufeng. Wan Zhuqing murmured. At this moment, great waves of shock rose up in his heart. Wasn't this the name Qin Wentian had mentioned to him earlier? Qin Wentian said that Baiming Nongyue of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom already had someone in her heart. And the person she was in love with was none other than the sage child of the 100 Refinements sect, Li Yufeng. At that time, Wan Zhuqing still thought that Qin Wentian was joking. He said that even Qin Wentian was so good at joking, as though he was telling the truth. But now, Li Yufeng was here and he was really the sage child of the 100 Refinements sect. Not only that, he was acquainted with Qin Wentian and even referred to Qin Wentian as Brother Qin. When all of this was linked together, one could very well imagine how terrifying the waves of shock in Wan Zhuqing's heart were. Was that really a joke? Wan Zhuqing's body trembled. He inclined his head and stared at Baiming Nongyue, who was in the air. She had been quietly standing there, and earlier when Duanmu and Mu Qiu wanted her to support them, she ignored them. If what Qin Wentian said was true, in that case, since Wan Zhuqing thought of this, Jin naturally thought of it as well. After all, she was also in the sedan back then. However, her state of heart was much calmer than before. After all, she had asked Qin Wentian before and Qin Wentian had admitted that he was extraordinary. It was just that Jin had no way to imagine what level Qin Wentian's extraordinariness had reached exactly. After that, Wan Yao's body also trembled. Wan Zhuqing's soft voice seemed to have reminded her of the conversation she had eavesdropped on earlier. Before this, they mocked Jin for being so arrogant, saying that Qin Wentian was someone who towered above the clouds to elevate himself. But right now, all the lies they felt were being verified step by step. Li Yufeng is the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect. In that case, who is this Qin Wentian? Many gazes of the Wan clan landed on Qin Wentian. At this moment, Wan Qingshan, who was lying on the ground, seemed to have forgotten the humiliation of being trampled on by Qin Wentian. His mind was in a complete mess, thinking back to everything that happened earlier. He couldn't even remember what humiliating words he had said to Qin Wentian. Cough. Wan Qingshan coughed out another mouthful of blood. However, at this moment, no one in the Wan clan dared to move. Apologize? Li Yufeng suddenly laughed. If an apology was useful, wouldn't that mean that there would be no more battles in the world of cultivation? I humiliated you and wanted to kill you, but when I discovered that I couldn't win the battle, I apologized. When has there ever been such a good thing in this world? Have you thought it through clearly? Can I kill him now? Is it him who dies, or your entire clan will be annihilated? Li Yufeng coldly spoke. Before this, his temper was very good, he only felt that it was ridiculous. It had always been him who used his status to suppress others. When had it ever been the turn for someone to threaten to kill him in front of the person he loved? This was truly a shameful matter. Would Mu Qiu die, or would his entire clan be annihilated? Simple words, yet tyrannical to the extreme. Mu Qiu felt a bone-piercing coldness. He had never felt that death would be so close to him before. Princess, can you spare Mu Qiu's life? That immortal emperor turned his gaze to Baiming Nongyue. Li Yufeng wasn't willing to spare Mu Qiu. In that case, he could only place his hope on Baiming Nongyue. This place was the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. As long as Baiming Nongyue was willing to help, there was still a chance to resolve this matter. Emperor Mu, one has to pay the price for doing things. I've seen everything that happened earlier. Mu Qiu was arrogant and despotic, wanting to expel all the participants of the banquet and even threaten them with death. Since this is the case, he should pay the corresponding price. Luckily, the Mu clan isn't implicated yet. Hence, Emperor Mu, you better be more cautious. Bai Ming Nong Yue calmly spoke. After that, she turned her gaze to Li Yufeng, you too. Since you are here, just come and look for me directly. Why must you create such a commotion? As the sound of Bai Ming Nong Yue's voice faded, the hearts of countless people trembled. Just come and look for her directly. Princess Bai Ming Nong Yue of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom was acquainted with the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect, Li Yufeng. In fact, their relationship wasn't shallow. Didn't I want to give you a pleasant surprise? Li Yufeng laughed. Bai Ming Nong Yue glared at him. Her silhouette flashed as she appeared beside Li Yufeng and lightly stretched out her hand. In the next instant, Li Yufeng and Bai Ming Nong Yue's hands clasped together. Numerous exclamations of shock rang out. In an instant, this entire space trembled. Such a scene, how could they still not understand what was going on? The saint child of the 100 Refinements sect and Princess Nong Yue of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. They were a pair of lovers. Mu Qiu's expression was like dead ashes as despair rose in his heart. Duan Mu Xiu's face was filled with terror. Although no one was acting against him now, his body was already trembling slightly from fear. The hearts of the people of the Wan clan were like dead ashes. Everything was as Qin Wentian had said. Bai Ming Nong Yue, the princess of the dynasty, was a character so lofty that they couldn't reach her. Even to Duan Mu Xiu, she was unreachable. But at this moment, she was holding onto Li Yufeng's hand and Li Yufeng was referring to Qin Wentian as brother Qin. Is this the pleasant surprise you want to give me? Bai Ming Nong Yue speechlessly spoke. Ha, you can't blame me for this matter. This is all because of brother Qin. Being able to meet this fellow here, isn't it a pleasant surprise? Li Yufeng laughed. Bai Ming Nong Yue and Li Yufeng turned together, staring at Qin Wentian. The princess of the dynasty whom the people of the Wan clan regarded as an unreachable existence, had a faint smile on her face. Since you are already in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, why do you still need to come here to take the test? You can just come and look for me directly. Would I dare to not receive you, a great demon king? Chapter 1340. Bai Ming Nong Yue's voice instantly attracted the attention of everyone to Qin Wentian. Princess Nong Yue personally arrived and she was holding Li Yufeng's hand. Countless people were shocked. Li Yufeng was the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect. And at this moment, Princess Nong Yue was holding Li Yufeng's hand, standing before Qin Wentian at the same time, treating him as an equal. Who was he exactly? In fact, Bai Ming Nong Yue's words seemed to contain a hint of self-mockery. Just come and look for me directly. Would I dare to not receive a great demon king like you? What status did this young man have to be able to receive such a joke from Bai Ming Nong Yue? Also, the way Bai Ming Nong Yue addressed him was extremely interesting. Great demon king. What had Qin Wentian done exactly for Bai Ming Nong Yue to refer to him as a great demon king? In addition, Li Yufeng also said that it was because he saw Qin Wentian here that he came over. Being able to instantly attract the attention of the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect and even cause the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom to address him in such a manner, who was he exactly? At the very least, he should be in existence on the same level as Qin Wentian. This level wasn't merely in terms of cultivation base, it was also in terms of talent and background. If one were to talk about cultivation bases, the cultivation bases of the people here weren't any lower than Li Yufeng and Bai Ming Nong Yue. Duan Mu's heart was already numb. Before this, if it was said that offending Li Yufeng wasn't ruthless enough, then right now, he gradually felt despair. Offending Qin Wentian was even more ruthless compared to offending Li Yufeng. And now, a single sentence from Princess Nong Yue was undoubtedly a declaration to him. No matter who he offended, he couldn't afford to offend them. The people of the Wan clan were all trembling. Even for Wan Qingshan, who was being trampled by Qin Wentian on the ground, at this instant, he no longer felt anger or humiliation. There was only despair in his heart. Those mocking words he said to Qin Wentian earlier still lingered in his mind. Those words had become the talisman that would hasten his death. Great Demon King. Qin Wendian didn't think too much about it. When he heard how Bai Ming Nong Yue addressed him, he felt it was funny. He shrugged. I came to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom for the sake of tempering myself, and coincidentally, the opening of the Dark North Immortal Mountain happened to happen. Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence that the person in charge of this banquet is none other than you. If I knew this earlier, I wouldn't have squeezed into the crowd. Qin Wentian's casual words were like thunder exploding in the ears of Mu Qiu, Duanmu, and the Wan clan. Previously, Qin Wentian was just a minor character, and no one would care about his words. Some of his arrogant words were even humiliated by others. But now, every word he said would determine the lives of the people around him. It was a matter of life and death. Could it be that the great demon king was wrong? Back then, wherever you went, you would make the geniuses tremble and cause a storm of blood. Bai Ming Nong Yue laughed. At that time, compared to you, I, the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, can only be described as insignificant. Before this, I already felt that I had lost a lot of face when I was forced off the rankings by this fellow. I always wanted to find him for a fight, but after that, I discovered that I couldn't win against him. As a saint child of the 100 Refinements sect, I also feel very embarrassed. Li Yufeng shook his head and smiled. He still couldn't see through Qin Wentian. But back then, in the most shocking battle in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, Qin Wentian fought against Huang Shatian to such an intense degree. Li Yufeng knew that it was impossible for him to defeat Qin Wentian. In addition, he knew that Qin Wentian defeated Huang Shatian at the foot of the Devil Mountain. For those below the Immortal King realm, it would be extremely difficult to find someone who could defeat Qin Wentian even in the vast immortal realms. Who is this fellow exactly? Princess Nong Yue and the Saint Child of the 100 Refinements sect, although they seem to be joking, it seems like they feel that they are inferior to Qin Wentian. How terrifying is this fellow exactly? Princess Nong Yue's fame wasn't simply because of her beauty. Li Yufeng was able to become the Saint Child of the 100 Refinements sect because of his talent. However, these two people were actually sighing about being inferior to this unremarkable young man before them. How could the hearts of the spectators not tremble? You two immortal companions, stop praising me to death. Qin Wentian smiled and shook his head. It has been so many years since we last met. To think that I would be able to meet such an enviable couple here. Do you want to treat me to a few cups of wine? Naturally. After we settle the matters here, follow me to the tall platform. I will do my best as a host. Bai Ming Nong Yue smiled and nodded. Their conversation was like a conversation between old friends, extremely ordinary. Qin Wentian's tone was as calm as ever, even though the person standing before him was the unreachable Princess Nong Yue. When they thought of how they humiliated Qin Wentian earlier, intentionally speaking to Duanmu in such an indifferent tone in order to raise their own statuses, the faces of the Wan clan's experts were all burning hot. Was there a need to feign indifference when speaking to Duanmu? Even when speaking to Bai Ming Nong Yue, he was still as calm as ever. For a truly arrogant person, no matter who he was facing, he would always be like this. Because, there was no need for him to look up to anyone, he could simply look at them calmly. Only now did the people of the Wan clan understand. Wan Yao no longer dared to look directly at Qin Wentian, the young man who was speaking to Princess Nong Yue. As for Mu Qiu, it was as though he was forgotten by the three of them. Even the immortal sense of an immortal emperor was ignored. What sort of attitude was this? It was like, from their perspective, Mu Qiu was simply an insignificant character. As for the immortal sense of an immortal emperor, it was merely a strand of immortal sense. If an immortal emperor personally appeared, they might be able to place some importance on him. Pooh! A light sound rang out. The eyes of everyone abruptly narrowed as their hearts pounded violently. The young master of the Duanmu clan, Duanmu Xiu, at this moment, knelt to Li Yufeng and Qin Wentian. The arrogant young master Duanmu suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Duanmu Xiu has eyes but can't see. Earlier, my words offended the two of you. Luckily, I didn't make a grave mistake. I hope that princess and the two of you can forgive me. If you have any requests, Duanmu Xiu will definitely bow and comply. Before Duanmu Xiu knelt and begged for mercy, he experienced an extremely difficult internal struggle. Given his arrogance, this act of kneeling simply destroyed his pride. But from the casual conversation between the three of them earlier, Duanmu Xiu truly understood what sort of characters these three were. They basically didn't care about Mu Qiu's life or death. Naturally, they wouldn't care about him as well. They directly ignored the immortal sense of an immortal emperor. If he wanted to live and leave this place alive, he could only kneel and beg for mercy. Mu Qiu and Duanmu Xiu, these two incomparably arrogant people. Right now, Mu Qiu's life was hanging by a thread. Duanmu Xiu actually knelt and begged for mercy. Their arrogant attitude earlier was still resounding in the minds of the Wan clan's people. They viewed them as characters who were above the clouds, characters who could casually marry into the Wan clan's Wan Miaoyan's heart. Right now, they were actually kneeling before the person she looked down on, Qin Wentian, wagging their tails and begging for mercy, begging for Qin Wentian's forgiveness. She once said that Qin Wentian was an ant-like character. As for Duanmu Xiu, he only needed to step out a single foot and he would be able to crush Qin Wentian into pieces. She once said that Qin Wentian was a lowly person who didn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Who exactly was lowly? Who exactly was a character above the clouds? Unreachable. Sometimes, the people above the clouds were not untouchable. They might appear by one's side, but they would be forcefully ignored by one. They would even constantly humiliate and ridicule them, as if they wanted to add all the contempt they had to the other party. Sometimes, those incomparably arrogant characters weren't truly arrogant. When they faced someone higher than them, they would prostrate themselves and lower their heads. Today, the people of the Wan clan deeply experienced what it meant by having eyes but failed to see. Brother Qin, have you made your decision? Princess Nongyue spoke to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian calmly stared at Duanmu, who was kneeling on the ground. He didn't have the complacency he had when he gained the upper hand. With regards to all of this, he was very indifferent. Duanmu was very arrogant, hence, he spoke rudely. But right now, his arrogance was most probably already shattered. In truth, there was already no need for him to do anything. Most probably, Duanmu wouldn't be able to raise his head high in the future. This act of kneeling had taken away his dignity. Scram! Qin Wentian lifted his palm and blasted out. With a thunderous boom, Duanmu's body was flung through the air. A clear five-fingered imprint could be seen on his face. Qin Wentian didn't want his life, but the pain in Duanmu Xiu's heart right now wasn't any better than death. He really scrammed away, leaving this place with his tail between his legs. His life was saved, but his dignity was lost. In the future, he would no longer be the Duanmu young master of the past. Qin Wentian naturally understood that Duanmu Xiu's life was in his hands, but he still chose to spare him. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom was the ruler of a region, and the Duanmu clan was after all an immortal emperor power. In addition to the Mu clan, these two emperor-ranked powers most probably had terrifying influence as well. Although the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't care about the attitude of immortal emperors, Qin Wentian still had to consider for Baiming Nongyue's sake. Killing a single Mu Qiu was already enough. Duanmu Xiu wasn't as disgusting as Mu Qiu. Boom! At this moment, Mu Qiu also knelt down. Qin Wentian glanced at him with loathing. Before this, what he did to Jin was already enough for him to die. It's useless even if you kneel. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Upon hearing this, Li Yufeng calmly spoke, I think so too. Kill him. As the sound of his voice faded, the people from the 100 Refinements sect naturally acted for him. A beam of destructive energy that could refine everything appeared, directly devouring Mu Qiu. A scream of misery rang out as Mu Qiu was turned into ashes by that terrifying destructive energy. The immortal emperor's shadow in the air trembled. After that, he turned to Baiming Nongyue and spoke, Princess, I will take my leave. As the sound of his voice faded, the immortal sense departed. The powerful young master of the Mu clan was directly killed just like that. Do they have any friends of yours? Bai Ming Nongyue stared at the people from the Wan clan. This is Jin, my friend. This is Jin's father, Wan Zhuqing. He is a good friend I met on my way here. Qin Wendian smiled as he introduced. Miss Jin, Mr. Wan. Bai Ming Nongyue smiled and nodded to the two of them. Princess. Jin bowed slightly. She understood the etiquette. But Wan Zhuqing wasn't so calm. His body trembled as he bowed. Wan Zhuqing pays his respects to Princess. Since old sir is a friend of brother Qin, you are naturally a guest of my Hokage Sengoku kingdom. There's no need to be so polite. Bai Ming Nongyue smiled. When the people from the Wan clan saw this scene, they all felt like dying. Chapter 1341. Jin, Wan Zhuqing, was someone who was ostracized by the Wan clan. In fact, Wan Qingshan wanted to sacrifice Jin many times to curry favor with Mu Qiu. Princess Nongyue was an existence they couldn't even look at directly. But at this moment, Princess Nongyue actually told Jin and Wan Zhuqing that they were guests of the dynasty. Such an opportunity was something the Wan clan could have as well. However, because of their attitude towards Qin Wendian, not only did they lose this opportunity, they even became enemies of Qin Wendian. What about them? Bai Ming Nongyue stared at the people of the Wan clan as she asked. I'm not familiar with them. However, these people who I'm not familiar with have humiliated me multiple times. I have to settle this debt. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice, his words causing the faces of the people of the Wan clan to turn pale. After that, Qin Wendian turned to Wan Qingshan. Initially, I couldn't be bothered with the matters before this. But here, you sacrificed Jin to curry favor with Mu Qiu, using the word lowly bastard to humiliate me. Just these 2 points alone are enough for you to die. Wan Qingshan's face was ashen, filled with despair. He knew that he wouldn't be able to survive. In the next instant, Wan Qingshan suddenly started laughing uproariously. His laughter was extremely maniacal. He crawled up, as though he had gone mad. I, Wan Qingshan, have truly been blind. Wan Qingshan suddenly let out a self-mocking laugh. He stared at Qin Wendian. Back then when Zhuqing invited you into the Wan clan originally had a chance to form a good relationship with you. But because of Wan Yao's stubbornness, Miaoyan's arrogance, as well as the pitiful arrogance of our Wan clan, we completely ignored you. After coming to the royal capital, the arrogant Wan clan became lowly, treating Duan Mu Xiu as a character of the clouds. However, what's laughable is that there are some people who are right in front of you that you can't even see, yet you are thinking of ways to curry favor with that unreachable character. How laughable, how sad. Wan Zhuqing stared at the sorrowful expression of his second brother as he sighed in his heart. This was indeed very sad. Who would have thought that the Wan clan had a character that was so unreachable, an existence that could even make Duan Mu Xiu kneel? Yao, Miaoyan, the two of you kneel. Wan Zhuqing suddenly berated. Wan Miaoyan and Wan Yao froze there. He wanted them to kneel. Wan Yao looked at Qin Wendian. At this moment, her heart was still trembling intensely. If it weren't for her willfulness, if it weren't for Qin Wendian not deliberately making things difficult for him and not mocking him along the way, would the ending be different? When Qin Wendian spoke, he was indifferent. No matter who he was talking to, he was always calm. She didn't like that expression and thought that Qin Wendian was pretending to be arrogant. However, now that she thought about it, it was ridiculous and sad. She then glanced at Bai Ming Nongyue who was standing beside Qin Wendian. That princess exuding magnificence through the generations, that lofty character standing beside Qin Wendian was like an old friend. Father, I know you want to save me. However, since I'm already in the wrong, let's just let it be. Wan Miaoyan calmly spoke. She closed her eyes, feeling incomparably complicated in her heart. However, I'm still somewhat unwilling. This time, I came to the Hokage Sengoku kingdom for the sake of the immortal mountain, for the sake of the immortal king realm. Wan Miaoyan closed her eyes and sighed. When she opened them again, a look of determination could be seen in her eyes. She stared at Qin Wentian. I want to challenge you. If you truly obtain the recognition of the princess and the saint child based on your strength, even if you kill me, even if I die, so be it. Miaoyan. Wan Qingshan berated. Father, there's no need to persuade me. Before this, I've already bowed and knelt before Duanmu Xiu, causing the doomsday of our Wan clan. This time around, I won't kneel, even if I die. Wan Miaoyan stared at Qin Wentian as she spoke. Her body floated in the air, coldly staring at Qin Wentian. Terrifying flames radiated from her as she spoke. Even if I die, I will die in battle. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at Wan Miaoyan in the air as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Do you think that by doing this, you would appear very noble? Qin Wentian faintly spoke. Humiliating and belittling others to show how arrogant you are. What qualifications do you have to say the word challenge to me? How can a lowly existence like you have the qualifications to say the word challenge to me? Or maybe, do you still have a trace of hope that if you defeat me, I won't be able to act against you anymore? If Wan Miaoyan merely looked down on him, then perhaps he wouldn't care. But those insulting and mocking words like lowly, ant, and so on and so forth weren't something that could be covered up by a proud expression of being willing to die. When Wan Miaoyan heard Qin Wentian's words, she only felt her heart pounding violently as her expression changed unceasingly. Qin Wentian stared at Wan Miaoyan's expression as he coldly laughed. As expected, you still have that pitiful pride in you, as well as those despicable delusions. As the sound of his voice faded, a powerful law energy gushed forth from Qin Wentian as he instantly lunged out. He lifted his palm as boundless runic light transformed, instantly transforming into an incomparably terrifying palm imprint of destruction. Wan Miaoyan's expression drastically changed. She frenziedly unleashed her own strength to resist, but under the might of that palm imprint, she was like an ant, directly grabbed by the palm imprint. After which, the palm imprint slammed her down, causing a thunderous boom to ring out. Wan Miaoyan only felt her internal organs trembling as she coughed out blood unceasingly. As for Qin Wentian, he still stood there, not moving at all from the start to the end. The people in the surroundings all felt their hearts trembling. What terrifying strength! They were both at the Immortal Foundation realm, but that palm imprint was simply too terrifying. Qin Wentian didn't stop. His palm blasted out towards Wan Qingshan again. With just a single strike, his Immortal Foundation directly shattered. At the same time, his left palm blasted out, slamming into Wan Yiyao's body, causing her to be directly flung through the air. Wan Qingshan, Wan Miaoyan and Wan Yiyao all fell onto the ground. The three of them were heavily injured to varying degrees. Their faces were filled with despair as they stared at the silhouette of that young man. However, Qin Wentian actually stopped. He turned his head back and spoke to Bai Mingnong Yue. Is this very boring? I do feel that it's quite interesting. Bai Mingnong Yue laughed. She turned her gaze to Wan Miaoyan as she spoke. Given your current cultivation base, most probably in the entire immortal realms, it's very hard to find someone who can stand equally against you. Duanmu and Mu Qiu, even standing beside you is an insult to you. Yet, someone who can bow and scrape before Duanmu and Mu Qiu is actually so pitiful to the point of shouting out the word challenge to you. This in itself is a very interesting matter. Bai Mingnong Yue's words ruthlessly smashed into Wan Miaoyan's heart, destroying her pride. Using the word challenge to protect her pride. However, this was just like how she humiliated Qin Wentian earlier. A lowly person wanting to use such a method to disguise themselves. In that case, from the looks of it, who was the truly lowly one? In the eyes of people like Qin Wentian and Bai Mingnong Yue, what did she, Wan Miaoyan, count for? Interesting indeed. Ha, let's go to the platform. Li Yufeng laughed. Qin Wentian nodded lightly, ignoring the other members of the Wan clan as well as Wan Miaoyan and her companions who were lying on the ground. At this moment, only then did Wan Miaoyan and her companions realize that in Qin Wentian's eyes, they had never existed before. Hence, Qin Wentian's expression was so calm when he looked down on them earlier. It was because he couldn't be bothered to bother with them. Jean and old sir, come along as well. Bai Ming Nong Yue smiled at the two of them. Jean glanced at Qin Wentian and didn't say anything. As for Wan Qingshan, he felt some trepidation. Right now, he was still in a state of shock from Bai Ming Nong Yue's words earlier. In the entire immortal realms, it was extremely rare to find someone who could stand equally against Qin Wentian. This evaluation of Bai Ming Nong Yue was sufficient to cause the hearts of many to tremble. If it was spoken by an ordinary person, it might be treated as a simple compliment. But the person who said this was none other than the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Bai Ming Nong Yue. In that case, the weight of this sentence was extremely great. Bai Ming Nong Yue's silhouette flickered as she flew forward. Qin Wentian and the others all stepped out, moving towards the platform. There were already people who had already prepared the seats for the banquet. Bai Ming Nong Yue didn't sit on the throne but sat together with the others, like a gathering of friends. She stood up and smiled at everyone. Although some minor matters happened, please don't let this affect the atmosphere of the banquet. These few are all my friends and everyone should already know that Li Yufeng is a saint child of the 100 Refinements sect. Brother Qin is someone I got acquainted with back then in the Sacred Academy. Back then when the Sacred Academy opened, all the supreme geniuses of the immortal realms gathered there and Brother Qin caused a raging storm in the academy. Everyone stared at Qin Wentian. No wonder Bai Ming Nong Yue and the saint child of the 100 Refinements sect regarded him so highly. He was an existence that could cause a huge storm in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Although Bai Ming Nong Yue made it sound simple, they all understood how terrifying one's strength must be in order to stand out among the geniuses of the immortal realms. Seems like he is a supreme character. Such an expert also came to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. The reputation of the Dark North Immortal Mountain is truly not in vain. Everyone sighed in admiration. I didn't expect to be able to see Sir Qin here. I wonder if we can get a few cups of wine from Princess Nong Yue. At this moment, a melodious voice rang out. After that, several figures soared up into the air. The gazes of everyone turned over as a moment later, exclamations of shock rang out. These maidens who appeared seemed to be intentionally concealing themselves. They were all wearing veils, but when the veils were removed, numerous beautiful faces appeared, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Why are there so many beauties here? All of them are so beautiful. The hearts of everyone trembled. So it's fairies from the Jadestige Immortal Palace. Please. Bai Ming Nong Yue smiled as the exclamations of shock rang out. Fairies from the Jadestige Immortal Palace, a peak power of the northern regions, the Jadestige Immortal Palace actually sent their fairies here. In addition, they were all acquainted with Qin Wentian. Many thanks to Princess Nong Yue. Several fairies stepped out. The one who spoke earlier was none other than Shen Yuehua. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, she was acquainted with Qin Wentian. Sir Qin, how have you been? Shen Yuehua smiled. Fairy Nong Yue, how have you been? Qin Wentian smiled and nodded. Everyone sat down and enjoyed the banquet. The people of the Wan clan haven't left yet. Wan Miaoyan stood up and stared at the situation on the platform. Princess Nong Yue, Fairy Nong Yue, Saint Child of the 100 Refinements Immortal Palace, these were all legendary characters. However, all of them were extremely respectful to Qin Wentian. After they saw him, Qin Wentian felt that it was natural for him to sit together with these characters. For such a character, when he was in the Wan clan, he was always humiliated and made things difficult for. Only Jin and Wan Zhuqing didn't. Hence, Jin and Wan Zhuqing also chose to sit together with these legendary characters. Let's go. Wan Qingshan's voice turned incomparably old. These two words seemed to contain boundless sorrow. Chapter 1342. The people of the Wan clan left, bringing with them a sense of longing and anticipation as they left with desolation and sorrow. However, no one cared about their existence. In this world, the people only cared about those characters who were at the peak of the clouds. For example, Bai Ming Nong Yue, Li Yufeng, Qin Wentian and the fairies of the Jadestige Palace. For these people who sat before the thrones and drank wine, every single word and action of theirs was far more eye-catching compared to the life and death of the Wan clan. That young woman sitting beside Qin Wentian seems to be from the Wan clan as well. She is very beautiful, just like a character from a painting. Her beauty is unique, and her judgment must be very good. She didn't look down on Qin Wentian like the others in the Wan clan but chose to stand beside Qin Wentian instead. Her father is the same as well, hence she obtained the friendship of Qin Wentian and is able to sit together with the princess. How glorious is that? That old man from the Wan clan seems to be a little nervous. But what sort of characters are the saint child and the princess? Even if they have ordinary statuses, because they are friends of Qin Wentian, they still treat them with respect, unlike Mu Qiu and Duanmu who are so domineering. These are the true arrogant people. They wouldn't flaunt their arrogance before the weak. Everyone present was discussing fervently. The battle just now had become the topic of everyone's discussion. On the banquet platform before the throne, Bai Mingnongyue smiled at Qin Wentian. Brother Qin, since you came to my Hokage Sengoku kingdom this time around, after your cultivation in the Dark North Immortal Mountain ends, you must definitely pay a visit to my royal palace. Let me show you my hospitality. Since Li Yufeng is here, why would I go to the royal palace to join in the liveliness? Wouldn't I be spoiling your plans? Qin Wentian teased. I'm not like Brother Qin. After all, I'm not as powerful as Brother Qin, only at the Immortal Foundation realm, yet I already obtained the permission of the Jadestige Immortal Emperor to betroth the princess to you. Li Yufeng smiled and looked at Qin Wentian. He raised his cup and said, speaking of which, I still have to give a toast to Brother Qin. Congratulations. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as he stared at Li Yufeng with some surprise. The 100 Refinements sect was located in the northern regions while the Evergreen Kingdom was located in the eastern regions. It was unknown how far apart they were, but Li Yufeng actually knew about this matter. Seems like the major powers of the immortal realms were all paying attention to the movements of the various powers. Yeah, let's toast to Brother Qin. Bai Mingnongyue also smiled. Brother Qin and Princess Qing have already been betrothed by the Evergreen Immortal Emperor. This is truly a joyous matter. Shen Yuehua similarly raised her cup, her eyes gleaming with amorous light as she cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian. In that case, I, Qin, will have to thank everyone. Qin Wentian wasn't polite, he smiled and drank the wine in his cup. Wan Zhuqing had always been very restrained. But when he heard Li Yufeng's words, his eyes flashed as a sense of disappointment flashed in his heart. Although there was no reason for this disappointment, when he saw how illustrious Qin Wentian was before this, he couldn't help but think back to the words he said back then. How good would it be if the two of them could be together? A bitter smile appeared on his face. Wan Zhuqing tossed aside this unrealistic fantasy. Seems like he was thinking too much. Princess Nongyue of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and the Saint Child of the 100 Refinements sect had such a high evaluation of Qin Wentian, treating him as a good friend. What sort of character was he? How could there be no women who liked him? How could his identity be simple? And as expected, when he heard that Qin Wentian was going to marry a princess, and it was even betrothed by the great emperor, Wan Zhuqing couldn't help but sigh. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the young man he met back then would be so illustrious. Back then, he was somewhat disappointed because Qin Wentian wasn't an immortal king. But now, from the looks of it, how could an ordinary immortal king compare to Qin Wentian? Which country's princess is your fiancée from? I wonder if I've heard of her name before. Jean smiled as she stared at Qin Wentian. Her expression was as calm as ever, as tranquil as ever. Very far away, the Evergreen Kingdom in the eastern regions of the Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice to Jean. This princess of the Evergreen Kingdom must be very beautiful, right? Jean mumbled. Very beautiful. Qin Wentian thought of Qinger as a warm smile flashed in his eyes. But after that, he felt that it wasn't too good to praise his fiancée in front of a beauty. Hence, he smiled again. Jean, you are very beautiful as well. Thank you. Jean casually smiled. Li Yufeng smiled as he stared at the two of them, an expression of interest could be seen on his face. Brother Qin, when do you plan to marry Princess Qing'er? Li Yufeng asked. I haven't thought of it yet. Let's break through to the Immortal King realm first. After all, Immortal Foundation is simply too weak in the Immortal realms. Qin Wendian shook his head lightly. That's the truth. Although you are already standing at the peak of Immortal Foundation, as long as you haven't broken through to the Immortal King realm, you are still very weak in the vast Immortal realms. However, I believe that once you break through to the Immortal King realm, you would instantly experience a huge leap, directly transforming from a weakling to an expert. Ordinary Immortal Kings wouldn't be your opponent. Li Yufeng seriously smiled. Qin Wentian's combat prowess was something everyone in the Tiandao Sacred Academy knew about. It's still too early to speak of this. After all, breaking through to the Immortal King realm isn't a simple matter. I hope that the Dark North Immortal Mountain would be of some help to my cultivation. Qin Wentian laughed. Ha, that's right. It's just that in the future when Brother Qin marries Princess Qing'er, if I have time, I might invite you for a cup of wedding wine. I hope Brother Qin wouldn't mind, right? You are naturally more than welcome. Qin Wentian nodded. Me as well. If I have time, I will definitely head there as well. Bai Ming Nongyue smiled. The two of you, stop talking about me. Maybe, you two came earlier than me. Qin Wentian stared at the lovey-dovey couple as he spoke. During the banquet, one's status would determine whether they would have the chance to sit together. But as for one's personality, it would determine if they could become friends or not. Qin Wentian admired the personalities of Li Yufeng and Bai Ming Nongyue. He naturally wouldn't mind having a few more friends. Jean quietly sat there with a smile on her face. Wan Zhuqing naturally didn't have the chance to interrupt and was extremely restrained. Although Bai Ming Nongyue and the others didn't mind, he still couldn't control his nervousness. Naturally, there was also a faint sense of pride. He had lived for so many years but he had never enjoyed such treatment before. Maybe, there wouldn't be a second time in this lifetime. Brother Qin, I will go and handle the matter of entering the Immortal Mountain first. As they chatted, Bai Ming Nongyue glanced at the crowd and spoke in a light voice. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Princess Nongyue, just go ahead and do what you need to do. I will drink more wine with Li Yufeng. Bai Ming Nongyue nodded to the fairies of the Jadistage sect, Jean and the others. After that, she stood up and walked to the throne, staring at everyone as she waved her hands. After that, the crowd gradually quietened down as they stared at the throne, waiting for Bai Ming Nongyue to speak. Everyone, you all came from all directions of my dynasty, but you didn't come here just to see me, Bai Ming Nongyue. Hence, I don't wish to waste too much of your time. Bai Ming Nongyue joked, her words causing many people to laugh. In fact, there were even some who jeered, I'm indeed here to see Princess Nongyue. Upon hearing the commotion, Bai Ming Nongyue raised her hand as everyone quietened down. Qin Wentian silently mused at this scene, silently musing that Bai Ming Nongyue was as expected of a princess of the Immortal Dynasty. She naturally had a unique charm to her. Just a casual joke was enough to pull the distance between her and everyone closer. However, there are still some words I have to say. The Dark North Immortal Mountain is a holy land for cultivation in our dynasty, but the area is limited after all. If too many people enter at the same time, it would be easy for them to disturb each other. Hence, no matter which time it is, there would always be a limit to the number of people who can enter. I hope that for those who failed to enter, don't feel resentment in your hearts. If there's a chance in the future, you can still come back and try again. Bai Ming Nongyue continued. Everyone nodded their heads lightly. The strong would enter while the weak would stay behind. Everyone could understand this point. Those who can enter the mountain should have at least peak-level Immortal Foundation combat prowess. I will set up a barrier at the entrance of the mountain behind me. The barrier is an army of puppets created by my dynasty. As long as you can break through the puppets and enter the mountain, it would mean that you can cultivate in the Dark North Immortal Mountain. However, there's a rule. Those who can soar through the air must not exceed a height of 10,000 meters. Bai Ming Nong Yue spoke. As the sound of her voice faded, there were experts who moved towards her back. After that, one of them released an incomparably powerful treasure. In an instant, numerous silhouettes appeared in the air, densely packed together. In the blink of an eye, a terrifying army of puppets appeared there, guarding the entrance of the Immortal Mountain. All right, everyone can make your preparations. Bai Ming Nong Yue spoke. After that, Li Yufeng, Qin Wentian and the others also stood up and stepped out into the air. Rumbling sounds rang out as the throne and staircase sank into the ground. It was as though there was a powerful formation here. Let's go to the back. Bai Ming Nong Yue spoke. The few of them nodded and retreated, emptying the space. Qin Wentian stared at the army of puppets. They actually formed a gigantic formation, resembling a gigantic black net that blotted out the sun. The net descended from the sky, completely sealing the entrance. Within this formation, there was a puppet guarding each location. What level of strength do I need to have to break through? Qin Wentian asked. As long as one breaks through to the Immortal King realm, there shouldn't be any problems. These puppets all have peak-level Immortal Foundation combat prowess and are connected by a formation. It's useless to surround them. One has to break through the defenses of the puppets individually. Bai Ming Nong Yue spoke. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Although there were countless people here, the number of people who could truly enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain wouldn't be too many. Brother Qin, are you in a hurry to enter? If you are, why don't you and Jean enter first? Bai Ming Nong Yue asked. It's better for me and Qin Wentian to pass the test and enter as well. Otherwise, the others might say something bad about the princess. Jean gently spoke, extremely understanding. Bai Ming Nong Yue glanced at her, a look of admiration could be seen in her eyes. Although she wouldn't mind such a small matter, Jean was able to think for her sake. Evidently, her character wasn't bad. Ordinary people would naturally feel proud that the princess of Bai Ming Nong Yue opened the back door for them. Jean is right. If we want to enter, let's directly enter through the formation. Qin Wentian smiled. He didn't mind. Since they came here, they might as well take a look at the formation first before entering. It wouldn't take too long. That's fine as well. You guys can enter together then. Bai Ming Nong Yue smiled and nodded. Chapter 1343. Miss Jean's talent is truly extraordinary. Li Yufeng also laughed. After that, they stepped out as well. Law energy circulated around Qin Wentian as he transformed into a bolt of destructive lightning, rushing towards a puppet. The Dark North Immortal Mountain opens once every 10 years. The vast majority of those who come here are those with confidence. Hence, their strength isn't weak. Bai Ming Nong Yue spoke. Qin Wentian nodded lightly, let's enter. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the mountain before him. The law energy grew stronger and stronger. Formless law energy enveloped the entire space. He lifted his foot and continued walking up the mountain. Qin Wentian nodded and continued upwards. Before them, there was an ancient tree. The ancient tree was filled with law energy and there were fruits growing on it. These fruits were incomparably bright red, resembling flames. In that case, the strength of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom should be very strong. Qin Wentian mumbled to himself. Although he had come into contact with the major powers of the immortal realms, he only had a certain understanding of the major powers of the eastern regions. He wasn't very clear about how strong the major powers of the other regions were exactly. Some experts joined forces to attack the puppets. However, the puppets' formation was extremely marvelous, able to disperse the attacks of these people. In addition, when the light flashed, the shadow of the puppets would also appear. Drawing a prison. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Jean's heart was pure. She was fond of the four arts. The energy she was proficient in was actually so marvelous as well, combining with her hobbies. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Seems like I'm ignorant and inexperienced. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. Could it be that the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom established their empire by relying on this mountain? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The destructive light directly penetrated through everything, slamming into the puppet. After that, he vanished from this space, passing through the formation in a tyrannical manner. Truly a wondrous place. I wonder how the Mountain of Laws was formed. Qin Wentian mumbled. As they continued forward, they finally arrived at the foot of a mountain. Li Yufeng laughed. If not, why do you think the people from the 100 Refinements sect and the Jadestage Immortal Palace are here? Not only so, there are also some disciples from other major powers mixed in with the crowd. Also, this isn't the only entrance to the Immortal Mountain. This entrance also isn't opened once every 10 years. This is only for us ordinary people. For those major characters, there aren't so many restrictions. The rules seem to be within reach. Jean mumbled. She stretched out her hand and felt it as she spoke in a light voice. This law energy is like the law domain of immortal kings and above, permeating the entire space. After the formation, it was the entrance to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Jean was waiting there. When she saw Qin Wentian and Li Yufeng coming out one after another, she couldn't help but smile. She didn't wonder why Qin Wentian was so powerful. He was even praised by Bai Mingnong Yue and the 100 Refinements Saint Child as having a hard time finding an opponent at the same level as him. She couldn't imagine how strong he was. Qin Wentian didn't say thanks, but he accepted this favor. Stepping out, Qin Wentian and the others walked towards the formation. He then spoke to Jean. Jean, you go in first. Only to see everything in the surroundings of that sword crumbling apart. When it collided with the attack of the puppet, the innate technique unleashed by the puppet was directly shattered. The puppet glowed with resplendent light and once again unleashed a tyrannical attack, shattering the sword. However, Jean had an immortal brush in her hand. She drew a diagram which transformed into a prison that directly bound the puppet. If we can be like the Immortal Mountain, releasing such law energy, enveloping the entire space, forming a domain of our own, we would be able to use the law energy here to attack, defend, protect, transform it into innate techniques, forming a body of law. At that time, we would truly be at the Immortal King realm. Li Yufeng spoke in a low voice. Qin Wentian and the others stood at the back and watched. These puppets could unleash all sorts of attacks, and each of their attacks had the might of a peak-stage Immortal Foundation expert. They were incomparably tyrannical, capable of breaking through everything. You can't put it this way. After all, given our current level, there's no need for us to know so much. The depths of the Dark North Immortal Mountain is a place where even immortal emperors have no way to probe into. It's basically not a place we can enter. The name of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom isn't just for show. Also, do you know why the Dark North Immortal Mountain is located right beside the Immortal Dynasty? As the group of them advanced, the law energy here gradually grew stronger. Li Yufeng smiled at Qin Wentian as he asked. There seem to be many immortal caves in the mountain range, we can enter them for cultivation. Qin Wentian ascended the mountain and saw many cultivation caves. Most probably, these caves were opened up by people of the past. Not only for them, many of those experts who entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain also came here, gradually moving up the mountain. Don't worry, Uncle Wan, Jean's cultivation base is also extraordinary. After entering the Dark North Immortal Mountain, no one would dare to antagonize her. Qin Wentian laughed. Jean and Princess Nongyue were drinking together. As long as one wasn't extremely audacious, who would dare to touch her? Awesome! Qin Wentian praised. The people of the Wan clan all misjudged her. Although Jean didn't like to fight and wouldn't intentionally display her strength, it didn't mean that she was weak. Right now, from the looks of things, just based on strength, she was much stronger than Wan Miaoyan. That puppet blasted out a violent attack, slamming into Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian's body glowed with a divine light, as though he had the body of a divinity. That attack directly shattered apart. Most probably, the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom had considered the fact that this place was the boundary of the Dark North Immortal Mountain. If one got any closer, they would be affected by the law energy. However, there were some extremely powerful characters who had comprehended Immortal King might. They could directly unleash powerful law attacks, penetrating through the puppet formation. Let's go. The group of them continued forward, entering the Dark North Immortal Mountain region. Before them, a majestic mountain range could be seen, bathed in boundless immortal light. Although the immortal mountain range was still very far away from them, they could already sense the law energy descending upon them. Right. Jean replied softly. After that, she stepped out as her aura gushed forth. Her entire body was enveloped by law energy as a gigantic painting appeared. She pointed out with her finger and an instant later, a sword manifested from the painting. The sound of space tearing apart could be heard as it slashed out. Jean moved together with the sword. Pmichum. However, as expected of experts from the various powers of the Dark North Immortal Dynasty, there are many powerful people here and many of them have already broken through the formation and entered the Immortal Mountain. Qin Wentian laughed. Naturally. If not, how would they be able to protect this sacred ground? Naturally, even the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't forbid experts from the various peak powers from entering the Immortal Mountain. If not, they would surely incur the wrath of the masses. Li Yufeng spoke. When the puppet array opened, countless experts began to attack it. In just a short moment, a shocking collision broke out in front of them. Alright, this mysterious sacred ground is about to appear before us. I'm filled with anticipation. Sadly, I can't go too deep with my current cultivation base or I might never be able to exit it. As Li Yufeng and the others advanced, they could already sense the law energy from the Immortal Mountain getting stronger and stronger. The law energy was formless and formless, it seemed to exist everywhere. Wentian, I will have to trouble you to take care of Jean. Wan Zhuqing spoke. I will take care of Mr. Wan. After you guys exit the Immortal Mountain, please come to my royal palace. Bai Ming Nongyue spoke in a light voice. The fruits of law are the fruits of law nurtured by the Dark North Immortal Mountain Range. There are also many rare and precious herbs in this mountain range. There are also many unknown secrets in that mysterious place where no one can enter. Li Yufeng spoke. Qin Wentian was filled with curiosity towards the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Brother Qin, how much do you understand about this Immortal Mountain Range? Li Yufeng asked. The law energy of the Immortal Mountain Range is everywhere, one can cultivate anywhere. It's just that I don't wish to be disturbed by others, hence, I chose to head to the Immortal Cave. Li Yufeng spoke. Naturally, there are some miraculous immortal caves where the law energy would gather together, transforming into an extremely powerful law energy. This formation is truly miraculous. Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. As expected, this is only a one-sided view. This Immortal Mountain Range isn't only suitable for the person Brother Qin spoke of. In truth, it's even suitable for immortal emperors to cultivate. Even for immortal emperors, they wouldn't be able to see the complete picture of this mountain range. What we are seeing now is merely the periphery of the Immortal Mountain Range. And the Dark North Immortal Mountain, which the vast majority of people speak of, is merely the periphery. However, many major powers of the northern regions all understand how terrifying this mountain range is. This mountain is the first immortal mountain in the entrance. It's rumored that for people at our cultivation level, only this mountain is suitable for cultivation. This is also the reason why Nongyue said that there's a limit to this area. If you step past this area, your life would be in danger. This is a forbidden ground and there are some extremely powerful experts guarding it. Li Yufeng reminded. I specially invited a formation grandmaster to create this for the sake of this test. Bai Ming Nongyue replied. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was also known as the Immortal Mountain of Laws. I only know that this mountain range is extremely suitable for peak-level Immortal Foundation experts as well as initial-stage Immortal Kings. Qin Wendian spoke. Terrifying sharp swords continuously appeared from the scroll, whistling through the air. Terrifying sonic booms could be heard as they pierced through, destroying everything in their path. With a loud poochie sound, the puppet seemed to have turned into nothingness. Jin's figure was like a bolt of lightning, directly passing through the formation. Okay. Brother Qin, Fairy Jadestige, let's go. Li Yufeng laughed. After that, the group of them moved forward. Bai Ming Nongyue didn't follow. She was the host of this test and naturally had to stay behind. In addition, if she wanted to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain, she could do so at any time. Smart. The Dark North Immortal Mountain is a sacred ground nurtured by the heavens and earth. Long before the rise of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, it was already under the control of an extremely powerful power. After that, the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom rose up and unified the boundless regions. The royal palace was built beside the Dark North Immortal Mountain to better control it. Li Yufeng laughed. Chapter 1344. Can I eat it? Qin Wendian smiled. Naturally. This is especially so for experts with law attributes. If they consume the fruits, it would be extremely beneficial to their comprehension. Li Yufeng replied. Qin Wendian's silhouette flashed as he moved towards the fruit tree. He directly stretched his hand out, wanting to pluck one of the fruits. However, at this moment, a terrifying surge of fire law energy gushed forth, gushing up his finger. Qin Wendian felt as though he was struck by lightning, his silhouette flickered as he retreated. However, his robes were instantly incinerated as the destructive fire law energy gushed into his body. I haven't finished speaking. If you can eat it. Li Yufeng spoke in a low voice as a strange smile appeared on his face. Qin Wendian speechlessly shook his head. I was tricked by you. However, I should have thought of this. Since this is a fruit born from the mountain of laws, it must have gathered boundless law energy before it could bloom and bear fruit. Naturally, it would also contain extremely powerful law energy. It shouldn't be a problem for me to harvest it, but it won't be so easy to eat it. Yeah, if you recklessly swallow the fruit, you might die. Li Yufeng nodded. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. He walked past the fruit tree and continued on his way up the mountain. You are going to miss it just like that? Li Yufeng felt somewhat bewildered, staring at Qin Wendian's back. Although this fruit is precious, it's useless to me. Why should I waste my effort on it? I might as well leave it for those who need it. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. Li Yufeng laughed. What an interesting fellow. Before the fruit tree, many people would even act to snatch it. Qin Wendian was truly calm. It wasn't that Qin Wendian was unmoved by the treasures. It was just that he had just ascended the mountain. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was incomparably mysterious and boundlessly vast. The mountain Bai Ming Nongyue pointed out was merely the outer region. In that case, there would surely be many more marvelous things ahead. As he ascended the mountain step by step, the power of rules was everywhere. Qin Wendian felt it quietly as he strolled on the celestial mountain, comprehending the formless rules of heaven and earth. Above his body, the power of rules emanated, as if it wanted to merge with the rules of heaven and earth. For Immortal Foundation experts, they have already come into contact with law energy. Although they could unleash law energy, there was still a qualitative difference between them and immortal kings. The usage of law energy by immortal kings was no longer limited to the law energy released from their immortal foundations. They could form a body of laws and create a law domain with a single thought. This was a qualitative change. It was easy to change quantity, but it was hard to change quality. Hence, it was unknown how many geniuses had no way to cross this threshold. Qin Wendian has already taken an extremely important step. He had 1 foot in front of the gate to the Immortal King realm. But if he wanted to completely cross over, it was still extremely difficult. The Immortal Foundation was formed from the inside out. It was the Immortal Foundation that released laws and energy. Immortal kings were able to fuse their internal and external laws together and could already form their own law domain. If I can be like the dark north immortal mountain, causing the surroundings to be filled with boundless law energy, there's no doubt that I would be able to break through to the immortal king realm. Qin Wentian mumbled. However, he had no way to find the opportunity to do so. Finally, Qin Wentian stood at the peak of this immortal mountain. His gaze turned to the surroundings. This mountain range was extremely vast and there were many experts here. Some of them sat cross-legged in cultivation, some continued to advance and some were searching for treasures similar to the law fruit tree. Li Yufeng, Jin, this time around, the reason we came to the Dark North Immortal Mountain is to search for an opportunity to break through. There's no need for us to travel together. Qin Wentian spoke to the two of them. Michum, I think so too. Everyone's opportunity is different and my cultivation base hasn't reached the required level yet. Since I came here, I should first find a cave to cultivate in. Li Yufeng spoke in a carefree manner. You go ahead, I will take a look around. Jin smiled at Qin Wentian. If there's anything, inform me immediately. Qin Wentian spoke. Okay. Jin smiled. Qin Wentian nodded to the two of them. After that, he stepped out, walking on his own path. The path of cultivation ultimately had to be walked by oneself. This was especially so when one is stuck at a bottleneck. No one would be able to help you. No matter how strong a power is, they would at most be able to provide heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures for you to better comprehend. But ultimately, whether or not you can take that final step, you still have to depend on yourself. Li Yufeng nodded to Jin. He turned and left alone, leaving in a carefree manner. Just like what he said, he needed to find a cave to cultivate in. Jin stared at the back view of Qin Wentian as a smile appeared on her face. She sat down on the ground and with a wave of her hand, an ancient zither appeared. She actually started to play the zither on the immortal mountain, causing melodious music to ring out. In this desolate immortal mountain, it was like there was only her and her zither music. This zither music was to bid farewell to Qin Wentian. He didn't turn his head back, he continued walking forward step by step, with no destination in mind. He was quietly immersed in his thoughts. He was different from Li Yufeng. His cultivation base has already reached the immortal king realm and has long taken that extremely important step. Although his insights weren't profound enough, it didn't matter. As long as the opportunity was right, he would be able to directly step over and ascend to the immortal king realm. This realm was known as the immortal king realm. Immortal kings and immortal emperors were all at this realm. The cultivation realms of stellar martial cultivators were differentiated by their astral souls and the constellations they condensed. Immortal kings and immortal emperors belonged to this realm. It's just that the people of the immortal realms divided this realm into immortal kings and immortal emperors. Breaking through the immortal king realm and becoming an immortal emperor was the supreme king realm. In the entire immortal realms, Wu Xiu knew the importance of this realm. Qin Wentian naturally understood as well. As long as he could step over this realm, he would be an immortal king, standing on the same level as immortal emperors. As long as one reached a certain realm, distance would no longer be something that couldn't be reached. It would be something that could be seen and touched. After stepping over this threshold, one would be considered a true expert of the immortal realms, standing at the upper echelons of the immortal realms. And precisely because of the importance of this realm, Qin Wentian was filled with anticipation and thirst for the immortal king realm. But he understood that at this moment, he mustn't be impatient. He had to be calm and comprehend the laws of this world. Qin Wentian walked forward step by step. He walked very slowly, sensing the strength of the laws in every corner, sensing their existence. His eyes were closed, not allowing his vision to disturb him as he used his heart to comprehend. After walking past one mountain after another, he encountered an ancient law tree. Although its fruits were plucked, he still sat under the tree and sensed it. After a long time, he stood up again and left. He passed by a strange-looking stone. This stone was incomparably gigantic and stood on the peak of a mountain. There was an ancient word engraved on it, King. Within the ancient word, boundless law energy gushed forth, wanting to rush into one's body. He sat down before the ancient word and quietly sensed it. Only after many days did he stand up and leave. Qin Wendian continued walking. He encountered another icy waterfall. The waterfall that cascaded down from the peak of the mountain was actually sealed in ice. It was an extremely majestic sight. The entire region was filled with ice pillars and even the air seemed to have frozen. This was a world of ice. When he neared there, Qin Wendian felt that he was about to be sealed in ice as well. Even his internal organs were being corroded by the power of ice. However, he still continued to unleash his law energy and walk towards this region until he reached the limit of what he could endure. He simply stood there quietly and very swiftly, his entire person was enveloped by the ice and turned into a human-shaped ice sculpture. After many days, the sound of something shattering rang out. Qin Wendian broke through the ice and directly left, without any reluctance. Qin Wendian walked very slowly, comprehending the law energy of each mountain in this mountain range. He didn't avoid a single place and wanted to walk through this entire mountain range. Today, he passed by the mountain range with the law of gravity and found it hard to even lift his feet. Every step he took was incomparably arduous and his body felt like it was about to collapse. But he still walked with great difficulty, constantly lifting his feet with great difficulty. He didn't take a detour. His internal organs also seemed to be under the terrifying pressure of gravity, and it was extremely uncomfortable. After several months, he finally walked past this immortal mountain that had the law of gravity. But this wasn't the most terrifying thing. One day, he arrived at an immortal mountain that had the laws of corrosion. That immortal mountain seemed to want to corrode his body. When he passed by this mountain, he didn't know how much pain he had to endure and how many times his vitality had to be restored. In fact, he even had the thought of giving up halfway through. However, he still relied on his extremely tenacious will to continue on. Day after day, Qin Wendian was like an ascetic monk. His robes were tattered and his long hair fluttered in the wind, appearing somewhat sloppy. However, it was as though he didn't notice this at all. He continued on his way until one day, he had passed through every single immortal mountain in this mountain range. But because Qin Wendian kept on moving, not many people noticed Qin Wendian's cultivation method. His good friend, Jean, was even more eye-catching. Because from the moment he entered the immortal mountain, she had always been there, playing her zither and painting. She had never moved a single step. Her painting seemed to want to depict the entire immortal mountain, as well as the formless law energy within. It has already been over a year since Qin Wendian entered the immortal mountain. The time limit for entering the immortal mountain was 3 years. Once the 3 years are up, the people of the Dark North Immortal Mountain would have to leave. 7 years later, the next batch of experts would enter. Naturally, if there were people who found an opportunity to break through to the Immortal King realm and entered a wondrous meditative state, the guards of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't forcefully chase them away. They would allow them to continue cultivating and wouldn't waste this opportunity. Today, the tattered Qin Wendian arrived at the boundary of the immortal mountain range. As to why it was called the boundary, it was because there seemed to be a formless energy barrier before him. It was rumored that this place was the forbidden ground of this immortal mountain range. Once one stepped into this forbidden ground, only death awaited them, there would be no way for them to return alive. Hence, although there were many people around Qin Wendian right now, none of them dared to enter. Do you guys understand this forbidden ground? Qin Wendian asked in a light voice. Everyone shook their heads. One of them glanced at Qin Wendian and spoke, although I don't understand it, it's a true forbidden ground. Before this, there was a person who went there and when he returned, only half his body was left but he was still breathing. After that, he was dragged away by a gray shadow, we couldn't even see what that shadow was. Chapter 1345. Forbidden Ground. Qin Wendian stared ahead, at the boundless desolate mountain range. That place should be the true Dark North Immortal Mountain, right? Outside the barrier, there were many extremely powerful experts standing guard there. One of them spoke, the area ahead is the forbidden ground. Those who enter will die for sure. If you guys want to enter, you will have to bear the consequences. Since these people have already entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain, even the guards of the dynasty would give them the right to choose. They wouldn't obstruct them from entering. Naturally, leaving aside Immortal Foundation experts, even for those who just entered the Immortal King realm, they wouldn't dare to enter the Forbidden Ground. It was simply too dangerous. As guards of this place, no one was clearer than them on how terrifying this Forbidden Ground was. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as he felt some hesitation in his heart. The Forbidden Grounds were naturally extremely dangerous. This point was already known from Li Yufeng's words earlier. Even immortal kings wouldn't dare to venture too deep into this place. Even immortal emperors wouldn't be able to see through the secrets within. Up until now, I've already roamed the entire area, but I still have no way to find an opportunity to break through to the Immortal King realm. If this continues, I might not be able to find one even after tens or even hundreds of years. Since I came out to temper myself, I can only give it a try. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as a look of resolution flashed in his eyes. Is there anyone who is willing to enter the Forbidden Ground? Let's see if there's any danger. At the very least, there's still time to retreat. Someone spoke. The eyes of everyone gleamed with sharpness. Those who dared to stay here were all extremely powerful geniuses. If not, they wouldn't have dared to covet the Forbidden Ground. As the sound of this voice faded, the eyes of many gleamed with sharpness. In their hearts, they all had the same thought, it's just that they didn't dare to make a decision. But now, the words of this person caused their hearts to be more resolute. Another person spoke. Cultivators all know that it's extremely difficult to break through to the Immortal King realm. Since we came here, most probably, we have already stepped through the gate, but we still can't break through to the Immortal King realm. Although it's just a single step, there's a possibility that we might never be able to break through to the Immortal King realm. That's right, this old man has already reached this level 1,800 years ago. I've also come to the Dark North Immortal Mountain many times, but I'm still stuck at this level, unable to take that final step. A skinny old man also spoke. He wore a conical bamboo hat and looked extremely ordinary. He didn't exude any aura, but in truth, he had already been stuck at the peak of Immortal Foundation for many years. During these years, his state of heart was already somewhat unstable. Right now, he only had a single goal, and that was to break through. If he took another step forward, it was very likely that he would be stuck in this realm for the rest of his life. He needed to take a risk. Yeah, the Forbidden Ground is incomparably dangerous, but it's also rumored that there's plenty of good fortune there as well. It's said that there was someone who attained enlightenment in the Forbidden Ground and became a supreme genius. From then on, his cultivation soared up to the clouds, becoming a peak-level expert in the immortal realms. Someone solemnly spoke, as though wanting to strengthen the determination of everyone. Facing the Forbidden Grounds, even for those with great courage, their will would still be shaky. After all, this was a matter of life and death. Although the path of the strong was the lifelong pursuit of stellar martial cultivators, if they lost their lives, everything would be meaningless. Let's go. A person spoke as he stepped out, crossing the boundary and entering the Forbidden Ground. Everyone, let's go together. Another person followed after him. Gradually, the others also started to move forward. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He also followed the others and entered the Forbidden Ground. For those who were hesitating, when they saw that all the experts had entered, including a character like Qin Wentian, they decided to follow as well. Bai Ming Yue and Li Yufeng both said that Qin Wentian was a peak-level genius in the immortal realms. Even if he didn't enter the Forbidden Ground, he would still be able to break through to the Immortal King realm in the future. But since he still chose to enter, what qualifications did they have to not take the risk? Those guards closed their eyes as though this was an extremely ordinary matter. Every time the Dark North Immortal Mountain opened, there would be no lack of people like this. But who among them would be able to come out alive? Their courage was praiseworthy, but if they didn't have the strength to back up their courage, only death would await them. After Qin Wentian entered the Forbidden Ground, he discovered that there was actually no law energy here. In fact, this place was even more desolate and desolate, there was no sound at all. Everyone's footsteps were very slow. They all thought that if they encountered any unforeseen events, they would immediately retreat. However, as they moved forward, they discovered that there was actually no danger at all. Thus, they continued to move forward in this barren land with an incomparably cautious attitude. The road has disappeared. At this moment, a person suddenly trembled as he shouted. Many people glanced over only to see that person turning his head and staring at the direction they came from. His countenance was pale. The eyes of everyone flashed as they turned their heads back. That place actually changed. At this moment, they no longer came out from the boundary. Instead, they were in a desolate mountain range with no end in sight. What should we do? A person asked with a pale face. The bodies of many people trembled. A voice then rang out, "Why are you panicking? Since we are already here, let's continue forward. Our purpose is to search for an opportunity to become an immortal king, not to flee back. If not, why would we even come here?" This voice caused the hearts of many to calm down. After that, all of them took out their divine weapons. The demon sword appeared in Qin Wentian's hand. Could it be an illusion? The faces of everyone paled. They could only brace themselves and continue forward. Luckily, they didn't encounter any danger and their hearts gradually calmed down. It's just that the atmosphere of nervousness in their hearts was still present. Bzz. From afar, the sound of a phoenix suddenly rang out. In the vast sky, a gray silhouette appeared. It was like a terrifying bolt of lightning, hard to see clearly. What a terrifying speed! The hearts of everyone trembled as they released their auras. But at this moment, that gray silhouette abruptly swooped down towards them, transforming into a beam of terrifying gray light. Careful! Everyone instantly dodged in all directions. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. He saw that the gray silhouette was actually a demonic beast he had never seen before. Its eyes were completely white, as though it was blind, exuding a sinister feeling. Its speed was so fast that everyone frantically retreated. Pooh! The person who shouted the word "careful" earlier was instantly turned into a bloody mess, torn apart by the terrifying claws. That gray silhouette instantly soared up into the sky, spiraling in the air. Everyone, attack together! Another voice rang out. As the sound of that person's voice faded, that terrifying demonic beast directly lunged towards him. That expert's countenance drastically changed as he slashed out with a fearsome saber light. However, the demonic beast that swooped down directly ignored the saber light and penetrated through it. A crisp sound rang out as blood splattered everywhere. That expert's skull was directly shattered into pieces. When the others saw this scene, they all frantically fled. This demonic beast was simply unstoppable. It was too terrifying, it could actually ignore such a tyrannical attack. After killing one person, the demonic beast continued spiraling in the air, as though it was searching for prey. All of a sudden, its body moved again, and a person who was slower in escaping was directly torn apart and killed. At this moment, everyone's hearts were like dead ashes. Forbidden ground, forbidden ground. Why did they have to step into such a place? This was simply courting death. Why did we enter the forbidden ground? One person was filled with reluctance, he didn't want to die here. But as the sound of his voice faded, that demonic beast directly rushed towards him. He was so frightened that his legs trembled. He turned around to attack, but it was completely useless. Are we really going to die here? The hearts of many people were filled with sorrow. At this moment, the old man wearing the bamboo hat suddenly laid on the ground, not moving at all. Even his aura had been completely retracted. Does he want to die? Everyone passed by him, not stopping at all. The demonic beast continued to hunt, but it actually whizzed past the old man, not killing the old man who was lying on the ground. Qin Wentian's immortal sense noticed this scene. He instantly kept the demon sword as he continued forward. After which, he abruptly fell to the ground and retracted his aura. Arg! A scream of misery rang out. That demonic beast killed another person and flew past Qin Wendian again. That demonic beast is blind. A thought appeared in the hearts of everyone. They also came to their senses, and in the blink of an eye, all of them kept their divine weapons and retracted their auras, lying on the ground and pretending to be dead. A strong gust of wind blew past, and the eagle flew above everyone. Then, it spiraled up into the sky and left the area. But even so, everyone still lay on the ground motionlessly. Only after a long time did some people crawl up, their hearts still trembling with fear. "Let's leave this place quickly." He spoke as his silhouette flickered and continued on his way. Everyone stood up and moved forward, not daring to stay in this area for long. They continued on their way. All of a sudden, a figure appeared in front of them. This figure was clad in white and had a slender sword in his hand. His back was facing the others. "Senior!" someone exclaimed in joy. They actually saw someone here. Undoubtedly, this person was an extremely powerful character. And just as the sound of his voice faded, the figure in front of them slowly turned around. After which, everyone felt a bone-chilling coldness. This person had an extraordinary physique, but his eyes were bleeding. The blood seemed to have dried up, and his pupils looked like they were about to seep out, exuding a sinister and terrifying aura. Bzz. The speed of this white figure was extremely fast, even faster compared to the demonic beast earlier. As the sword slashed down, the head of the person who spoke flew into the air. Everyone drew in a breath of cold air as their hearts turned cold. They felt as though doomsday had arrived. Forbidden grounds weren't a place they could enter. Gusts of whistling wind drifted over. At the foot of the mountain, numerous figures could be seen flying over. There were humans and demons, but the auras they exuded were cold to the extreme, as though they were corpses. This is the same as the demonic beast earlier. Qin Wendian also felt his entire body turning cold. This place was simply a land of death. Chapter 1346. Qin Wendian held his breath, not daring to make a single sound. He also completely retracted his aura. These humans and demonic beasts basically didn't have any vitality at all. They were like corpses, yet they knew how to kill. The others were all experienced as well. All of them held their breaths, not daring to make a single sound. At this instant, the entire space was so silent that it was terrifying. In the desolate mountain range, a cold wind gusted by. Was this forbidden ground really still a part of the immortal Law Mountain? This place was simply a mountain of death. Hoochie! A light sound rang out, the wind fluttered the robes, and in this silent space, it was extremely ear-piercing. Numerous silhouettes turned around, and the person who made the sound was as pale as a sheet of paper. Bzz. A raging wind gusted by. A gray shadow with towering corrosive might instantly sped past. In just an instant, the person who made the sound directly turned into corpse chi and vanished from sight. Those who were near him all felt their hearts trembling. One of them even let out an extremely soft sound. Boom! A terrifying thunderclap rang out. The terrifying might of the thunder directly blasted a terrifying hole in the mountain range. In the air, a purple-winged demonic beast that was bathed in boundless thunder and lightning released a fatal strike. Another stretch of deathly silence. Those corpses quietly waited in various directions. To the spectators, this was akin to a god of death. One of the experts trembled slightly, only to see a silhouette slowly turning around, facing him. "All of you won't be able to survive, all of you won't be able to survive." That person roared as he rushed up into the air. Several destructive attacks rained down at the same time, directly turning him into dust. It was simply a miserable sight. Those who were still alive all had cold sweat on their foreheads. However, they still held their breaths, not daring to make a single sound. Their eyes were filled with terror and despair. Naturally, there were also some who closed their eyes, not daring to look. They only hoped that these death gods would leave by themselves. However, these figures didn't seem to have any intentions of leaving at all. Qin Wentian closed his eyes tightly. For him, this was also a dead end. No matter how strong he was, no matter how powerful he was, once he was discovered, these grim reapers would attack him at the same time and he would die without a doubt. He knew that these humans and demonic beasts were all terrifying characters when they were alive. They were all extremely powerful immortal kings. But now, they were reduced to death gods. He came here because he wanted to break through to the immortal king realm, not to die. He didn't want to die. However, how could such a situation be resolved? Make a sound. Make a sound and we'll be able to lure them away. Qin Wentian thought to himself. If he could move, he could easily make a noise in other directions. But if he wanted to make a noise in other directions, he had to move first. Once he moved, he would die. He could use his own ability and directly emit a sound from afar. However, at the Immortal Foundation realm, energy had to be channeled from the inside out. Firstly, he had to release his own aura. If that was the case, he would still die. Given the current situation, he couldn't release any aura at all. Immortal King's ability, only immortal kings can save themselves. A thought flashed in Qin Wentian's heart, an incomparably intense desire to live. Another miserable scream rang out. Qin Wentian's entire body was drenched in sweat. If this continued on, all of them would die. None of them would be able to survive. The intense nervousness caused Qin Wentian to sink into a state of emptiness. Absolute silence, it was like everything in this world had stopped. The wind gusted by him, he could see the direction of the wind, and could sense the rhythm of the wind. He could even faintly see the runic patterns of the wind. Law is the Tao of heaven and earth. This world itself has its own Tao, it has its own language. Only by understanding this language would one be able to truly control this Tao, the Tao of law. A voice rang out in Qin Wentian's heart. Wind was the origin attribute of heaven and earth, existing in all corners of the world. It wasn't the same as suppression and destruction attributes, needing astral souls to imbue it. I want to see the law language of the wind through the trajectory of the wind, the runic patterns of the wind. Qin Wentian silently mused. Back then in the Heavenly Talisman realm, he was enlightened by the Heavenly Talisman treasured tome and gained his own understanding of cultivation. He was currently trying to use his own method to come into contact with the Immortal King realm. Every Immortal King would have different insights when they broke through. They would use different methods to break through to the Immortal King realm. Qin Wentian would also have his own method. Naturally, the prerequisite was that he was able to take this step first. The heavens and earth were silent, Qin Wentian had forgotten everything else. He quietly immersed himself in sensing the heavens and earth, and at this instant, his senses grew even sharper, entering a state that he had never been able to reach before. How high a stellar martial cultivator's accomplishments could be, was directly related to what kind of changes they would undergo when faced with a life and death crisis. No one would be able to walk the path of the strong without facing a life and death crisis. And at times like this, it would always be a test of one's will. No matter how strong one's will is, when the god of death descends upon them, their will might still crumble. They would panic, fear, and their senses would turn sluggish. Hence, the ending might very well be death. There was another type of person. The more dangerous the situation was, the more their potential would be stimulated. When a person was forced into a corner, the incomparably intense will to live would cause them to erupt forth with strength that transcended their past. Because, they knew that if they didn't step over, they would only be walking on the path of death. In the face of life and death, humans would naturally walk towards these two extremes. And clearly, there were even fewer people like this. Qin Wentian was precisely this type of person. In the external world, another two people were killed. Those god of death seemed to have set their sights on this area. As long as there was any movement, they would immediately act. Everyone was panicking, they didn't even know how these monsters were born. Time passed by so slowly. At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to have forgotten everything in the external world. Right now, no matter how nervous or afraid he was, it was useless. He wanted to live. If he wanted to live, he had to comprehend. His perception was pushed to the extreme. The runes of the Great Tao in the air, as well as the natural laws of the Great Tao, wanted to imprint themselves into his mind. He tried to communicate with them using his immortal sense. Immortal sense was the only thing that could prevent his aura from leaving his body. Another person let out an extremely faint sound. In an instant, the death gods turned to look at him. That person's face was as pale as paper, filled with boundless terror. Despair could be seen on his face, and it was as though the entire world had stopped moving. Boom! At this moment, an intense sound rang out from afar. The aura of heaven and earth fluctuated, gushing towards the distance. After that, those figures abruptly dashed out like bolts of lightning. Numerous destructive attacks were unleashed at the same time, blasting towards the fluctuations of the aura. However, when the destructive attacks landed, the fluctuations of the aura were still there, speeding towards the distance. Those god of death chased after them. This scene caused the person who was in despair earlier to be dumbfounded. He only felt that his life had been spared. Those figures flew further and further away. At this instant, everyone felt that they had been saved from the jaws of death. A cold wind gusted by, and these powerful characters actually felt the coldness boring into their bodies. It was extremely cold, and their bodies were all covered in cold sweat. Qin Wendian opened his eyes, gleaming with a dazzling light. He was one step closer to surviving a calamity. With a flash of his silhouette, Qin Wendian sped away with lightning speed. In front of him, there was a valley, as well as a mountain range in the distance. Everyone continued forward, traversing through the valley. On the way, they encountered many god of death figures. Qin Wendian led them away, causing many people to stare at Qin Wendian in bewilderment. This fellow seemed to have become stronger. He seemed to have comprehended something and was getting closer and closer to the immortal king realm. He was getting closer and closer to the immortal king realm. This valley was extremely vast, and the colors were incomparably beautiful. Numerous mysterious flowers bloomed in the valley, emitting a fragrance that was filled with an extremely dense life force. What flowers are these? Someone halted his steps, moving closer to the sea of flowers. There should be many treasures in this valley. Could these beautiful flowers be heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures as well? The aura of heaven and earth fluctuated. Qin Wendian's countenance flickered as he hurriedly retreated. Only to see that space fluctuating, the sea of flames suddenly grew taller and taller. Swishing sounds rang out unceasingly as it actually transformed into a terrifying sea of flowers domain, engulfing everything. That expert's countenance changed. He soared up into the air, but the speed of the growing flowers was even faster than his speed. He was directly enveloped within the petals, and an instant later, one of the flowers grew even more beautiful. When the petals opened up, only an ice-cold corpse was left behind. The others hurriedly fled for their lives, but there was still a sea of flowers that soared upwards. When the petals opened and closed, there was no longer any sense of beauty, only a blood-colored demonic feeling. Save me! Another scream rang out, as that person was engulfed by the sea of flowers. The others were so frightened that their guts were about to explode. Qin Wendian directly took out the demon's sword and slashed it towards the sea of flowers. The shadow of a terrifying great rock appeared, slashing apart the flowers. Qin Wendian soared upwards once more as the demon's sword expanded to 100 meters in size, slashing downwards. The other experts all took out their divine weapons as they madly fled for their lives. Finally, another few of them died. Qin Wendian left the valley of the Sea of Flowers and came to another mountain range. A few more people descended, and there were only 5 of them left. The other experts had all died in the forbidden ground. The 4 of them floated in the air, staring at the boundless mountain range before them. Their countenances were like dead ashes as despair filled their hearts. I can't survive at all. One of them was in a state of madness. He felt that he would die for sure, it was impossible for him to walk out of the forbidden ground alive. Qin Wendian glanced at the horizons as a sense of helplessness appeared in his heart. In the depths of this forbidden ground, the strength of experts like them was so insignificant. Chapter 1347. The 5 who survived were filled with despair and confusion. One of them had the weakest willpower and kept repeating that he wouldn't be able to survive. Clearly, his willpower was on the verge of collapse. "What should we do?" someone asked. His gaze turned to Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian was the strongest among them. Moreover, the princess and the saint both valued him greatly. Naturally, he was the most extraordinary. Before this, when they were facing those slaughtering death gods, someone lured them away. Later on, when they passed through the canyon, they found out that that person was Qin Wendian. His cultivation level was also the highest among the 5. "Let's continue. What's the use of constantly thinking that we won't be able to survive? If we really feel despair, we can just directly commit suicide. If we still want to live, even if there's only a sliver of hope, we have to continue." Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. He himself wasn't confident, but he had no other choice. No one wanted to face such a situation. However, since they had entered the Forbidden Land, they had to be prepared. They might encounter the threat of death. Since they had already come to this point, they could only brace themselves and continue forward. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wendian continued forward. The others followed after him. Qin Wendian was right. What's the use of thinking that we won't be able to survive? Are we going to commit suicide here? If we don't want to commit suicide, we can only continue forward. The person who kept repeating that he wouldn't be able to survive was stunned. He gritted his teeth and followed after Qin Wendian. Only when they truly entered the Forbidden Land did they realize how vast it was. The desolate land seemed to have no end. Fortunately, they didn't encounter that kind of despair again. After walking through one desolate mountain after another, Qin Wendian sensed the flow of energy in the world. He faintly felt that there seemed to be something more here compared to the outside world, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. "No, I can't bear it anymore. I have to travel from the sky. I have to keep moving in one direction. I will eventually have a chance to walk out of this mountain range." The person with weaker willpower couldn't bear to walk aimlessly. He asked, "Is there anyone with me?" The eyes of the others flickered. One of them said, "I'll go with you. Let's hope it works." The other 2 looked at Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian shook his head and said, "Since it's a forbidden area, how can it be so easy to get out?" The eyes of the 2 of them flickered. Even Immortal Foundation experts could fly up into the air. Qin Wendian's words made sense. If one could simply fly up into the air and leave this place wouldn't be known as the Forbidden Ground. "Let's go." The bodies of the 2 people who wanted to leave rose into the air and kept moving towards a very high place. Qin Wendian looked up and saw that the bodies of the 2 people were becoming smaller and smaller. Gradually, they were about to disappear from his sight. Clearly, they had reached a very high place. Suddenly, a beam of green light appeared in the sky. It was as if a green tentacle had reached out from the clouds and shrouded the 2 black dots. This. The eyes of Qin Wendian and the others flickered. An extremely terrifying aura permeated the air as an incomparably demonic green light cascaded down, illuminating this entire space. Although it was only for an instant, that beam of light was extremely resplendent. They disappeared. One of them mumbled. The 2 black dots in the air vanished, indicating that the 2 silhouettes had disappeared. "Are they dead?" The other person was none other than that old man who had been stuck at the peak of Immortal Foundation for many years. He stared at the sky as a fox mourned the death of its own kind. "How can they not die?" Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice, similarly feeling a sense of sorrow in his heart. He also hoped for a path of survival, but in truth, it was extremely difficult to find one. At the very least right now, he couldn't see any signs of survival. "Let's hope there's a way out." The old man sighed. Other than Qin Wentian, his will was the most resolute. He had been stuck at the Immortal Foundation realm for a very long time before he decided to come to the Forbidden Ground to search for an opportunity. His perception of life and death was much more indifferent compared to others. The other person was a handsome young man with an extraordinary demeanor. He had an ancient sword strapped to his back and seemed to be a sword cultivator. He was a man of few words and had always been moving silently. That's right, who says that there's no light at the end of the tunnel? Qin Wentian laughed, as though he was consoling himself. As he spoke, he continued speeding forward. After several months, they saw a strange mountain range in front of them. They stared down at the canyon below, only to discover that there was actually an incomparably gigantic palm imprint there. This palm imprint stretched across the land and there were 5 incomparably distinct depressions. These were none other than the fingers of the palm imprint. What was even more terrifying was that this palm imprint actually exuded a faint pressure. Just by standing at the side, one could feel the majestic pressure gushing over, wanting to crush everything. Is this forbidden ground really the mountain of law? That old man spoke in a low voice. Being able to leave behind such a palm imprint, that person should at least have the strength of a peak-stage immortal emperor. Qin Wentian's expression changed as well. This mountain range had existed for countless years and the history of this palm imprint should be extremely long as well. Even after so many years, the aura emanating from this palm imprint had yet to dissipate. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful the person who created this palm imprint must be. I'm only curious now, how vast is this place exactly? That handsome young man spoke. After they entered the Forbidden Ground, they have been moving forward for over a year but they still couldn't see the end. They had no idea where they were now. Hence, he wanted to ask, how deep was the Forbidden Ground exactly? And where would it lead to? Let's go. Qin Wentian also sighed in his heart. But he only spoke 2 words before he continued forward, passing by the 5-fingered mountain. Below, the pressure from the palm imprint permeated the air. This 5-fingered mountain was extremely vast, they had to walk for quite some time before they passed it. After that, they arrived at another mountain range. There's someone there. At this moment, they saw a black-cloaked figure quietly standing there. The 3 of them halted their steps, not daring to move an inch. At this moment, that figure slowly turned around. Qin Wentian and the 2 others saw a face exuding a heroic aura. That pair of eyes were dark and deep, filled with vigor, as though wanting to see through the 3 of them. It's a living human, it's Wu Xiu. The old man exclaimed in shock. This was the first living human they saw in the Forbidden Ground, Wu Xiu. Li Yufeng told Qin Wentian that the Dark North Immortal Mountain didn't have a single entrance. For some powerful characters, they would enter the depths of the mountain from other entrances. This expert before them should be one of them. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a light that could see through all illusions. However, he still couldn't see through this person. Clearly, this person was at the Immortal King realm and was much stronger compared to him. I pay my respects to Senior. Qin Wentian called out. That person calmly glanced at Qin Wentian and the others. That heroic face of his contained traces of curiosity and disdain. Shifting his gaze over, he spoke in a low voice, fellows who aren't afraid of death. Being able to survive until here, your lives are truly tough. Senior, we mistakenly entered the Forbidden Ground and met with death many times. On the way here, many of our companions died. Can Senior guide us to the right path? The handsome young man beside Qin Wentian clasped his hands. There's no right path. Given your cultivation bases, there's only a path of death. That young man calmly spoke, his tone filled with certainty. A path of death? The countenances of Qin Wentian and the 2 others changed. The old man spoke, Junior, may I be so bold as to ask if we can follow Senior? That young man abruptly turned around, his eyes gleaming with sharpness like lightning. That old man staggered backwards as his countenance instantly paled. A mocking smile appeared on the young man's face. Are you guys even worthy? The old man's countenance dimmed, he had nothing to say. Being led by a supreme character, they truly weren't worthy. Senior, this brother Qin here is a friend of Princess Nongyue of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. His status is extraordinary. The young man beside Qin Wentian spoke, as though he was unwilling to give up. It wasn't easy for them to encounter a ray of hope. As long as this young man agreed to help them, they might be able to leave this place alive. The young man's gaze faltered. He glanced at Qin Wentian as a mocking smile appeared on his face. What do you mean by that? He stared at the young man as he calmly spoke. Upon sensing the sharpness of the young man's gaze, the young man apologized, Senior, please forgive me. This junior doesn't have any other intentions. No other intentions? The young man laughed. After which, he stepped out. With just a single step, the countenances of the people beside Qin Wentian paled, as though they were enveloped by a boundless killing intent. Senior, please forgive us. Qin Wentian and the old man spoke at the same time. Right now, only one of their companions was left, yet this young man actually wanted to kill them. Forgive me. A friend of Baiming Nongyue. Are you using your status to suppress me? A bolt of lightning flashed in the eyes of that young man. After which, a scream of misery rang out. The companion beside Qin Wentian directly exploded into pieces as fresh blood splattered, landing on Qin Wentian's face. His expression was extremely unsightly to behold. Although the words of the young man were a little rude, it might not be what he said. However, this young man actually wanted to kill him just because of a single sentence. I won't kill you guys. If you guys can leave this place alive, why don't you tell that last Baiming Nongyue that you met Pei Qing in this forbidden ground? The young man calmly spoke. After which, he turned and departed, vanishing completely with a flash. Pei Qing. A terrifying gleam of sharpness flashed in the eyes of the old man. Are you acquainted with him? Qin Wentian asked. In the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Pei Qing's name is even more resounding compared to Princess Nongyue's. The old man's expression trembled. No wonder this young man wanted to kill someone just because of a single sentence. Pei Qing, the youngest immortal emperor in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. He's the first person to do so since the founding of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. The old man spoke in a low voice, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to gleam with sharpness. With such a radiance, no wonder this young man was so arrogant, killing so easily. This young man looked so young, yet he was actually an immortal emperor. Only the two of us are left. Qin Wentian sighed. The old man's expression also froze. Among the people who entered the forbidden ground, only he and Qin Wentian were still alive. Let's go. Qin Wentian continued forward. Not long after, they stopped again. Ahead of them, there were actually many stone monuments. These monuments were all wordless, embedded into the ground. They were like tombstones. Chapter 1348. Qin Wentian suddenly spoke. He wasn't acquainted with this old man and he didn't know the other people who entered the forbidden ground. Everyone chose to enter the forbidden ground on their own and they should be responsible for their own choices. There was no need for him to say anything, but right now, only the two of them were left alive. He still felt somewhat sorrowful and hoped that this old man would be able to live on. Hence, he couldn't help but to persuade him. Seems like elder brother Qin, you don't understand much about the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Who in the immortal dynasty doesn't know of Princess Yuhuang? Hence, Pei Qing has been announcing to the outside world that he wants to woo Princess Kitamura and marry her. The two of them chatted casually as they advanced, as though they were trying to ease the tension in their hearts. After all, so many people had entered the forbidden ground and now, only the two of them were still alive. In addition, Pei Qing also said earlier that there was no clear path, only death. Before this, I was stared at by the zombies and couldn't even release a trace of my aura. But in truth, if it wasn't for that situation, as long as I had some time, I might have a chance to escape. Hence, even if we meet with danger later on, I might still have a chance to survive. However, because of the oath made by my sect, I can't bring old Sir along. Hence, old Sir doesn't have to make the same choice as me. Just like what old Sir said before, you can cultivate here and maybe break through to the immortal king realm before you meet with danger. I'm already very fortunate to be able to reach this point. I don't have too much hope, it's been so many years since I took that final step. If I die here, it's also my fate. However, before we enter, can I ask you who you are exactly? Why would Princess Nong Yue and the Saint Child of the 100 Refinements sect hold you in such high regard? I've always been curious. Qin Wendian walked up and stared at the wordless stone tablets that exuded an ancient aura. Qin Wendian changed his direction once more. As he continued forward, he saw too many strange phenomena. He saw many terrifying divine weapons that weren't something he could touch. He also saw many zombies, and all of them had their own sentiments and attachments. With a smile, he didn't say anything and continued walking forward. Qin Wendian walked forward step by step, moving towards the baleful aura. When the baleful aura grew stronger and stronger, the terrifying law energy seemed to be able to tear everything apart. His footsteps slowed as he stared ahead. There were still dark clouds, but within the dark clouds, a supreme cold light could be seen, illuminating this entire patch of dark clouds. Shall we go in? The old man asked, looking at Qin Wendian. Some of the stone steels had already shattered, turning into rubble that scattered everywhere. There were also some stone steels that were split down the middle, and deep pits could be seen at the bottom of the steels. Old mister. Qin Wendian called out again. The old man halted and turned his head to look at Qin Wendian. Changing his direction, Qin Wendian left this place and continued to walk through the dark clouds. He could sense the boundless destructive qi, and he quietly sensed it as he walked towards the source. After that, he saw a zombie sitting on the ground, hugging onto a white robe. This robe seemed to belong to a female. Although this zombie had been dead for countless years, it was still filled with attachment to the owner of this robe. There's someone there. All of a sudden, Qin Wendian saw a human silhouette beside the broken saber. It was a zombie, and his head was severed in half. Qin Wendian drew in a breath of cold air and instantly retracted his aura. That silhouette stared in his direction, as though it had eyes and knew of his existence. However, it didn't move, it merely circled around the saber, exuding a deep sense of attachment. Naturally, I don't even know how long the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom has existed. The #1 expert in history, how can he not be strong? Also, the #1 expert in history is at the Immortal Emperor realm. There's no one in the past, but I don't dare to say that there won't be someone like him in the future. Everyone in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom knows that there's a person who has the chance to surpass him, but I don't know if that person would be able to do so or not. The old man spoke. Why do I feel that this Immortal Law Mountain is like an ancient battlefield? Regardless of the palm imprint or the stone monument, there seemed to be an incomparably great battle that flattened everything. The city was reduced to ashes, leaving only the uneven ground. But as time passed, this place became a desolate mountain range. Qin Wendian mumbled. Old sir. Qin Wendian called out. No one replied. Many geniuses with unparalleled talent died midway or met with a bottleneck. But Pei Qing had already reached the Immortal Emperor realm. No one dared to doubt him anymore. Everyone in the world knew of him. The aura of destruction emanated from her robes. It was unknown how many terrifying destructive attacks she had endured when she was alive. Baiming Nong Yue. Qin Wendian felt somewhat bewildered. So, I choose to enter. Old sir, you should choose according to your heart as well. Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. He wouldn't try to persuade others to enter with him. This was his choice, not the choice of others. Everyone should have their own choices and they need to be responsible for their own choices. He is the owner of the saber. Qin Wendian's heart trembled. He was already a dead man, how could he still be alive? The aura of slaughter, the aura of destruction, the aura of death. However, amidst this aura of despair, he actually sensed a trace of life. It was like he had been saved from death's door. Brother Qin, take care of yourself. Live well. From the dark clouds, a voice rang out. It was the voice of the old man. He had left, he wanted to barge in alone. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. Our purpose in entering the forbidden ground is to search for an opportunity. But after we entered, our purpose is to survive. How sad. I don't know. In any case, there's something strange about this place. Qin Wentian continued walking forward. That Pei Qing is an immortal emperor. Even an immortal emperor came here to explore. From this, one can see that there's definitely a shocking secret in this mountain range. If not, like what you said, as the person who broke through to the immortal emperor realm the fastest in the history of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, there's no need for him to come here. My name is Qin Wentian, I come from an emperor-ranked power in the eastern regions. Bai Ming Nong Yue and Li Yufeng treated me as a good friend because back then when the Tiandao Sacred Academy opened, we got to know each other. At that time, Li Yufeng ascended to the Supreme Might rankings and was replaced by me. Maybe, he started to pay attention to me at that moment. In the Sacred Academy, I caused quite a commotion and fought against the juniors of several major powers, causing waves of commotion. This is what happened, there's nothing special about it. The eyes of the old man flashed. He turned his head back and stared at Qin Wentian in bewilderment. As expected of someone from a major power, he actually still had life-saving methods in this forbidden ground. That's true. Qin Wentian nodded. This was the #1 character in history. As long as there was no hatred between them, they would naturally be on good terms with him. The danger is unpredictable. Who knows when those zombies would suddenly appear? It's also very dangerous to stay here. Qin Wentian shook his head. He didn't like to passively wait. He chose to continue forward. Although there were many dangers, as long as there's the slightest chance, he would continue forward. In addition, he still had a trump card. Princess Kitamura is so powerful. Qin Wentian was somewhat surprised. This place seems to be safer. Actually, Brother Qin, we still have another path. Let's stay here. The old man spoke. Your Highness. What a powerful baleful aura. At this moment, the eyes of the two of them flashed. They continued forward, arriving at the edge of the mountain and stared at the gigantic canyon ahead. Over there, a layer of dark clouds could be seen. Despite the passage of countless years, the dark clouds still didn't dissipate. It was like there were dead souls from an ancient battlefield here. The baleful aura originated from there. Qin Wentian mused that if it was really like what he had guessed, this place must be an ancient battlefield. How many experts were buried here? This number was simply too terrifying. Qin Wentian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. You call this nothing special? The old man was speechless. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. After that, he continued forward. Naturally not. Princess Nongyue is only at the Immortal Foundation realm, how would I be able to tell? Also, Princess Nongyue's chances are very slim. It's her elder sister, Princess Kitamura. She's known as the #1 beauty of our Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, a supreme empress. It's rumored that in the future, the throne of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't be passed down to the emperor's son but to Princess Kitamura instead. There are so many sons and daughters of the emperor, but none of them can be compared to her. Pei Qing has always been incomparably arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that this place is extraordinary, he wouldn't have come here. The old man nodded. Although he wasn't acquainted with Pei Qing, he had heard too many rumors about him in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Pei Qing was a legendary character, a true supreme genius. That was a saber, a broken saber. Only half of the saber remained. But even though it was only half a saber, it still shone with a resplendent light. Qin Wentian sighed. After that, he walked forward as well. He finally sensed the aura of law energy, an extremely powerful one. Also, this time around, it wasn't just a single law, but an incomparably chaotic law energy. It's precisely because he is too arrogant, he can't tolerate others offending him. That sentence earlier, if it was an ordinary immortal king, he would most probably help and get acquainted with Princess Nongyue. But he is Pei Qing, hence, he felt that those words had offended his pride. Indeed, he doesn't need to care about Princess Nongyue's feelings. After all, as the #1 character in history, he would at the very least become a peak-stage immortal emperor in the future and even has the chance to break through to that level. This Pei Qing is truly arrogant. But since he wants to marry Princess Kitamura, why did he kill Baiming Nongyue just because of that sentence? Qin Wendian tried walking away. As expected, that living corpse didn't care about him. It was like even after he died, that living corpse still had an undying longing for the saber. If this is really a battlefield, and this place is really the tombstone of ancient times, what are these pits for? Could it be those living corpses? The countenance of the old man changed. If it was those living corpses, things would truly be too terrifying. Burying the dead here and they could actually revive? What place was this exactly? Who is it? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Qin Wentian sighed. He stepped out, entering the canyon that was shrouded in dark clouds. Very swiftly, he discovered that the old man in front of him could no longer be seen. Is Pei Qing really so powerful? Qin Wendian curiously asked, feeling somewhat unhappy with Pei Qing. Although he knew that as an immortal emperor, no one would dare to say anything if Pei Qing trampled an immortal foundation expert to death, he was still very unhappy despite the fact that there was still an insurmountable disparity between him and Pei Qing. Yeah, you don't have any real experience and always feel that you're lucky. Now that you've entered this place, you've already forgotten why you came here. The old man laughed.